Abandoned and Forgotten: How Harry Potter Built a Magical Empire from Nothing at Age 12. Chapter 1. The boy who survived Harry Potter didn't scream when his uncle dumped him on the streets of London with nothing but the clothes on his back and a black eye to remember him by. No, Harry had learned years ago that screaming just made things worse. "Don't come back, freak." Uncle Vernon had snarled, spittle flying from his walrus mustache. "We never should have taken you in. After what you did to Dudley." The car peeled away before Harry could argue that making Dudley float to the ceiling wasn't something he'd done on purpose. It just happened. Like the time his teacher's hair turned blue. Or when he'd suddenly appeared on the school roof. But this time was different. This time, Dudley had been taunting him for hours, and something inside Harry had snapped. The entire living room had exploded with energy. Windows shattered. The television imploded. And Dudley, fat, bullying Dudley, had floated to the ceiling, screaming like a stuck pig. That was yesterday. Now Harry stood alone on a London street corner as evening approached, 12 years old and completely on his own. "Right," he muttered, shoving his hands into the pockets of his oversized jeans, "Dudley's hand-me-downs, as usual. Food first. Then somewhere to sleep." Harry had exactly £3.27 that he'd managed to nick from Aunt Petunia's purse in the chaos before Uncle Vernon had thrown him in the car. Not much, but it would have to do. 6 hours later, Harry crouched in the shadow of a dumpster behind a convenience store, finishing the last of a discounted sandwich. The summer night wasn't too cold, but the ground was hard, and every noise made him flinch. He'd already chased off 2 rats and 1 very persistent cat. Sleep didn't come easily, but exhaustion eventually won. His dreams were vivid: green light, a woman screaming, and that strange sensation of power that always preceded the weird things that happened around him. Harry woke with a jolt. Something warm pressed against his leg. He scrambled backward, heart pounding, only to find himself staring at a small garden snake, its scales gleaming in the early morning light. "Go away," Harry hissed. The snake raised its head. A speaker? How unusual. Harry froze. Did that snake just talk? "You understand me?" Harry whispered. "Of course," the snake replied. "You speak the noble tongue." Harry blinked rapidly. Great. Now he was hallucinating talking snakes. Maybe Uncle Vernon was right about him being a freak. "I'm losing my mind," Harry muttered, running a hand through his unruly black hair. "Your mind seems intact to me," the snake replied. "Though your nest is lacking." Harry let out a surprised laugh. "Yeah, well, got kicked out of my old nest. Not that it was much better than this." The snake slithered closer. "I am called Sithis. I sense power in you, young speaker. I'm Harry. Just Harry." He paused. "And I'm not special." Sithis made a sound suspiciously like a snort. "Humans. So blind to the obvious. You reek of magic, speaker." "Magic?" Harry's voice cracked. "There's no such thing as," but even as the denial left his lips, Harry knew it wasn't true. All those unexplainable incidents, the strange occurrences, the way things happened when he was angry or scared. "Show me," Harry said suddenly, his green eyes intense. "If magic is real, show me where to find it." Sithis tilted his head. "Follow me, young speaker. The hidden world awaits." Harry hesitated only a moment before gathering his meager belongings. He had nothing to lose and potentially a whole new world to gain. As he followed the small snake through the awakening streets of London, Harry felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Sithis led him through increasingly narrow streets and winding alleys until they reached a dingy pub sandwiched between a bookshop and a record store. A weathered sign hung above the door: "The Leaky Cauldron." "This is it?" Harry asked, unimpressed. The building looked like it might collapse if someone sneezed too hard. "Appearances deceive," Sithis replied. The gateway lies within. Taking a deep breath, Harry pushed open the door and stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit and filled with the strangest assortment of people Harry had ever seen, men and women in flowing robes, pointed hats, and bizarre jewelry. Some had skin in impossible colors. Others appeared to be having beverages that emitted smoke or changed colors. Everyone was too busy with their own conversations to notice a small, scruffy boy slipping through the crowd. Harry followed Sithis toward the back of the pub and through another door that led to a small courtyard facing a brick wall. "Now what?" Harry whispered. "Wait," Sithis advised from Harry's pocket, where he'd slithered for concealment. They didn't wait long. A plump, red-haired woman bustled into the courtyard, followed by a trail of equally red-haired children. "Stand back, everyone," she said cheerfully. "Percy, dear, remember the pattern? 3 up, 2 across." The tallest boy stepped forward importantly, pulled out a polished stick, and tapped the bricks in a specific sequence. Harry watched, mouth slightly open, as the bricks rearranged themselves into an archway revealing a bustling street beyond. "Welcome to Diagon Alley," the woman announced to her brood, not noticing Harry pressed against the wall. As soon as they passed through, Harry darted after them, emerging onto a cobblestone street packed with the most extraordinary shops he'd ever seen. Stores selling cauldrons, broomsticks, owls, wands, and people everywhere, dressed in those same strange robes he'd seen in the pub. "I was right," Harry breathed. "Magic is real." "Of course it is," Sithis replied. "And you have it in abundance, speaker." Harry spent the morning wandering Diagon Alley, absorbing everything he could. He learned quickly by eavesdropping, this was a hidden magical community, complete with its own government, economy, and culture. The weird sticks everyone carried were wands. The large marble building was Gringotts, a bank run by creatures called goblins. And the strange coins everyone used came in 3 types, gold galleons, silver sickles, and bronze nuts. His stomach growled painfully, reminding him that wonder and amazement weren't substitutes for food. Without wizard money, he was just as broke here as in the regular world. "There must be something I can do," Harry muttered, leaning against a wall to rest his feet. "Some way to earn money. Perhaps explore beyond the main street," Sithis suggested. "Where there is wealth, there are always shadows." Harry followed a narrower, darker alley branching off the main thoroughfare. A sign identified it as Nocturne Alley, and immediately Harry sensed the difference. Where Diagon had been bright and cheerful, Nocturne was dim and suspicious. The few people he passed pulled their cloaks tight and kept their heads down. "Careful, speaker," Sithis warned. "Predators lurk here." "I've dealt with predators all my life," Harry replied grimly, thinking of Uncle Vernon's meaty fists and Dudley's gang. Deeper into Nocturne Alley, Harry spotted something promising, a small, boarded-up shop with a faded sign, "Moribund's Magical Miscellany." Unlike the other buildings, this one seemed completely abandoned, with dust-caked windows and a door hanging slightly ajar. Harry glanced around before slipping inside. The interior was a disaster, shelves knocked over, display cases cracked, and a thick layer of dust covering everything. "Hello?" Harry called cautiously. Silence answered him. He explored further, finding a small living space behind the shop, a bedroom, tiny bathroom, and kitchenette. Everything was covered in dust, but otherwise intact. "Looks like nobody's been here in years," Harry said, excitement building in his voice. "Sithis, I think I just found us a home." "A nest of your own," the snake agreed. "But claiming territory requires strength. Are you prepared to defend it?" Harry thought about the Dursleys, about years of being stuffed into a cupboard, of being starved and beaten and treated like a burden. He thought about being abandoned on the streets. Something hardened in him. "Yes," he said firmly. "I can defend it. I just need to figure out how." Harry spent the rest of the day cleaning one corner of the living space enough to sleep in. He found an old blanket that, after a thorough shaking, would serve as a bed. More importantly, he discovered a small cache of wizard coins, 3 galleons, 7 sickles, and 23 nuts, in a forgotten desk drawer. "First stroke of luck I've had," Harry muttered, pocketing the money. He ventured back to Diagon Alley for food, purchasing a meat pie and apple from a street vendor. As he ate, he listened to conversations around him, absorbing information like a sponge, about Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, about the Ministry of Magic, about someone called you-know-who, who had terrorized the wizarding world years ago. Most interestingly, he overheard snippets about the boy who lived, apparently some kid named Harry Potter who had defeated this dark wizard as a baby and then disappeared. Harry nearly choked on his pie. That couldn't be him, could it? But the more he eavesdropped, the more certain he became. The lightning scar on his forehead that people kept mentioning. The parents killed by the dark wizard. The same age. It all matched. "I'm famous," he whispered to Sithis that night as they settled into their makeshift bed in the abandoned shop. "Everyone thinks I'm some kind of hero. Yet they left you with those cruel humans," Sithis observed. "Fame means little without power to back it." "Then I'll get power," Harry decided. "I'll learn magic my own way." The next morning, Harry began exploring the shop more thoroughly. Under layers of dust and debris, he discovered numerous magical items, broken wands, cracked cauldrons, damaged books, and various objects whose purposes he couldn't begin to guess. This was a junk shop, Harry realized. Or a repair shop. Maybe both. He picked up a cracked hand mirror. As he examined it, that now familiar feeling surged within him, the same energy that had made Dudley float. Focusing intently on the crack, Harry willed it to mend. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the crack sealed itself, leaving the mirror whole again. "I did it!" Harry exclaimed. "Did you see that, Sithis? I fixed it." "Very impressive, Speaker," Sithis replied from his perch on a nearby shelf. "Your magic responds to your will." Harry spent hours practicing, fixing torn books, sealed cauldron cracks, and even restoring the shine to tarnished metal objects. Each success came more easily than the last. By evening, Harry had accumulated a small pile of repaired magical items. "I could sell these," he realized. "Use the money to buy food and supplies. Maybe even get my own wand eventually." Over the next few days, Harry established a routine. Mornings were spent scavenging through rubbish bins behind shops in Diagon Alley, looking for discarded magical items he could repair. Afternoons were dedicated to fixing his finds, and evenings to selling them at deeply discounted prices from a small folding table he'd set up just inside Knockturn Alley. His first customers were sketchy types who didn't ask questions about an unsupervised child selling magical goods. But word spread quickly about the boy with the uncanny knack for repairs, and soon, more respectable wizards and witches began seeking him out. A week into his new life, Harry encountered his first real challenge. He was setting up his table when a shadow fell across him. Well, well. What do we have here?" Harry looked up to find 3 teenage boys, maybe 16 or 17, sneering down at him. Each wore expensive-looking robes and had their wands casually displayed. "Just minding my business," Harry replied, continuing to arrange his wares. "Can I interest you in a self-stirring cauldron? Only 5 sickles." The tallest boy laughed nastily. "Hear that, Marcus? The street rat thinks he's a shopkeeper." Marcus, a burly boy with small, mean eyes, stepped forward. "This is our territory, kid. Anyone doing business in Knockturn pays us protection money." Harry straightened, sizing up the trio. They were bigger, older, and had wands. But Harry had survived Dudley's gang through speed and cunning, not strength. "Funny," Harry said, sliding one hand under the table where he'd stashed a particularly vicious biting teacup he hadn't been able to completely defang. "I don't remember seeing your names on the deed." Marcus's face flushed. "Last warning. 5 galleons a week, or we trash your stuff and teach you a lesson." Harry felt that now familiar energy building inside him, ready to respond to his anger. But he needed to be smart about this. A direct confrontation would only end badly. 3 boys against 1 kid, came a new voice. Not very sporting, is it? All 4 turned to see a tall, blonde girl about Harry's age standing nearby, arms crossed. Despite her youth, she carried herself with unmistakable confidence. Her robes were clearly expensive, and she had the poised look of someone from money. "Piss off, Greengrass," spat the 3rd boy. "This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does," the girl replied coolly. "My father's interested in this boy's repair work. That makes him under House Greengrass protection." She smiled thinly. "Unless you prefer I mention to father how Montague's son is extorting children in Nocturne." The boys exchanged uneasy glances. Even Harry could tell the name, Greengrass, carried weight. "Whatever," Marcus muttered eventually. "Not worth our time anyway." He turned to Harry. "This isn't over, runt." After they slunk away, Harry turned to his unexpected defender. "Thanks, but I could have handled it." The girl raised an eyebrow. 3 armed wizards against 1 wandless boy. "I doubt it." She extended her hand. "Daphne Greengrass." Harry hesitated before shaking it. "Harry." "Just Harry." She looked at him more closely, her eyes widening slightly as they fixed on his forehead. "Interesting." Harry's hand automatically went to his scar. "It's nothing." Daphne clearly didn't believe him but didn't press. Instead, she surveyed his merchandise. "My father wasn't actually interested in your work, that was just to scare them off. But now that I'm looking at these." She picked up a small silver instrument that emitted puffs of colored smoke. "This is quite impressive restoration work. Are you self-taught?" Harry nodded warily. "Even more impressive." She set the instrument down. "Do you have a proper shop, or just this table?" "I've got a place," Harry said vaguely. Daphne smiled, the first genuine expression he'd seen from her. "My father really would be interested in your work. He owns Greengrass Magical Imports. Perhaps we could discuss a business arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" Harry asked, suspicion evident. "The profitable kind," Daphne replied. "We frequently receive damaged goods in shipments. Having someone who can repair them would be valuable." Harry considered this. He needed allies in this new world, and Daphne had already proven useful. But he'd learned early never to trust too quickly. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "Fair enough." Daphne selected the smoke-puffing instrument. "I'll take this as a sample of your work." "How much?" "For you." "No charge." Harry made a split-second decision. "Consider it thanks for the help with those goons." Daphne nodded approvingly. "Smart business, the first one's always free. I'll be back tomorrow." She turned to leave, then paused. "By the way, those boys will return, probably with more friends. You should prepare." After she left, Harry closed up shop early and returned to his hideout. If trouble was coming, he needed to get ready. "Interesting encounter," Sithis commented as Harry paced the small shop. "She recognized me," Harry muttered. "The scar." But she didn't say anything. "A potential ally, or threat," Sithis observed. "But the immediate danger comes from those young males." Harry nodded. "I need defenses." He spent the evening setting traps throughout the shop, biting teacups positioned near the entrance, a trick step that would trigger a cascade of books, tripwires connected to precariously balanced cauldrons. It wasn't much, but it might give him the advantage of surprise. Harry also practiced focusing his magic deliberately, working for hours on a simple trick, making small objects fly across the room on command. By midnight, he could reliably send items flying with a gesture and concentrated thought. Not bad for a beginner, he told himself, exhausted but satisfied. His preparations came just in time. Shortly after he opened for business the next day, Marcus returned with 5 friends, all older, all with wands, all wearing the same predatory expressions. "Told you we'd be back," Marcus sneered. "No little Greengrass to help you now." Harry smiled calmly. "I don't need help." "Get him," Marcus ordered, and the boys rushed forward. Harry was ready. He flicked his hand, sending his entire table of merchandise flying at the group. Cauldrons, books, and magical devices pelted them from all directions. In the confusion, Harry darted into his shop, the bullies following close behind. The first through the door triggered Harry's traps. A biting teacup latched onto someone's ankle, eliciting a howl of pain. Another tripped the wire, bringing down a cascade of heavy books. A third stepped on the trick step and was showered with sticky potion ingredients Harry had found in the shop's back room. "What the hell?" shouted Marcus, stumbling through the chaos. "Where are you, freak?" Harry, hidden behind a toppled bookcase, concentrated hard. Every loose object in the room, from quills to broken wand pieces to heavy brass scales, rose into the air and began spinning in a chaotic whirlwind. The boys cried out in alarm as they were pelted from all sides. "Leave my shop." Harry stepped out, his green eyes almost glowing with focused power, the storm of objects continuing to swirl around them. For a moment, the tableau held, 6 disheveled older boys staring in shock at the small, skinny kid commanding a hurricane of debris with nothing but his will. Then one of the boys turned and fled. Another followed. Within seconds, all of them were running, including Marcus, who paused only long enough to shout, "You're dead, Potter. You hear me? Dead." As the last of them disappeared, Harry released his control, letting everything clatter to the floor. He sank to his knees, exhausted but elated. "That was rather impressive," came Daphne's voice from the doorway. She stepped carefully over the scattered items. "No wand. No incantations. Just raw power." She extended her hand to help him up. "I think my father will definitely want to meet you now. Harry Potter." Harry accepted her hand, rising unsteadily to his feet. "You knew." "The scar gave it away," she confirmed. "But seeing what you just did. Everyone thinks you've been training with master wizards all these years. But that's not training, that's pure talent." "I've been living with muggles, non-magical people," Harry explained, surprising himself with his candor. "I didn't even know I was a wizard until a week ago." Daphne's eyes widened. "That's not the story everyone's been told." She studied him thoughtfully. "This changes things. You know you're famous, right? The boy who lived." "I've heard some talk," Harry admitted. "Well, famous people with unique magical talents can write their own ticket in our world," Daphne said. "But you need allies who understand the landscape." She gestured to the shop around them. "This is a decent start, but you could do so much more." "Why would you help me?" Harry asked bluntly. Daphne smiled. "Because I recognize a good investment when I see one. And because—" She hesitated, then continued more quietly, "because I think you might actually be as interesting as the legends say." Harry considered her for a long moment. His instincts, honed by years with the Dursleys, were good at spotting deception. Daphne was ambitious and calculating, certainly, but her interest seemed genuine. "All right," he said finally. "Let's talk business." Over the next month, Harry's operation expanded rapidly with the Greengrass connection. Daphne's father, impressed by Harry's innate magical talent, provided proper tools and materials for magical repairs. More importantly, he introduced Harry to key contacts in the magical business community. The abandoned shop was transformed. Harry cleared away the debris, repaired the main fixtures, and officially opened Second Chance Magic, specializing in repair and reconditioning of magical items. A simple sign in the window read, "If it once had magic, we can make it magic again." Harry's reputation spread. His ability to sense and restore magical properties without formal training fascinated the wizarding community. Some came just to watch him work, marveling as the scruffy boy with the lightning scar repaired complex magical items through sheer will and intuition. Not everyone was pleased with his success. Marcus and his gang spread rumors that Harry was using dark magic. Several pureblood families expressed outrage that an underage wizard was operating without ministry oversight. And most concerning, Harry began noticing strange people watching his shop, people in dark cloaks who disappeared whenever he tried to get a closer look. "You're disrupting the status quo," Daphne explained during one of her regular visits. "The old families don't like seeing power develop outside their control." "I'm just fixing broken stuff," Harry protested, currently working on a complicated astronomical instrument. "You're doing wandless magic at 12, Daphne countered. "Without any formal training. That makes you unpredictable. Unpredictable things scare people in power." Harry set down his tools. "Is that why you're here?" "Because I'm unpredictable." Daphne considered this. "I'm here because you're the most interesting person I've met. And because I think you're going to change our world, with or without help. I'd rather be on the winning side." Harry grinned. "Smart choice." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion outside. Harry rushed to the window to see a crowd gathering around a man standing in the middle of Nocturne Alley. The man was wild-looking, tangled black hair, hollow-cheeked, with haunted eyes that scanned the alleyway frantically. "Merlin's beard," Daphne breathed, peering over Harry's shoulder. "That's Sirius Black." "Who?" Harry asked. "Escaped prisoner from Azkaban," she whispered. "Incredibly dangerous. He murdered 13 people with a single curse." The man's gaze suddenly locked on Harry's shop, no, on Harry himself. His eyes widened, and he took a step toward the store before someone in the crowd spotted him. "It's Black. Someone call the Aurors." Chaos erupted. People scattered, screaming. The man, Sirius Black, took advantage of the confusion to dart down a side alley and disappear. "That was close," Daphne said, her face pale. "They say he was you-know-who's right-hand man. Some think he's hunting for you, to finish what his master started." Harry frowned. Something about the man's expression didn't match what Daphne was saying. He hadn't looked murderous when he saw Harry, he'd looked desperate. Almost hopeful. That night, after closing the shop and saying goodbye to Daphne, Harry sat with Sithis, discussing the day's events. "This Sirius Black, he looked at me like he knew me," Harry said, absently stroking Sithis's scales. "Perhaps he does," the snake replied. "Your past contains many mysteries, Speaker." A noise from the shop's back door interrupted them. Harry tensed, reaching for a heavy wrench he kept nearby for protection. The door creaked open slowly. "Hello?" Harry called. "We're closed." "Harry," came a rough, hoarse voice. "Harry Potter." The wild-looking man from earlier stepped into view, his hands raised to show he was unarmed. Up close, he looked even worse, emaciated, with prison tattoos visible on his exposed skin and eyes that held years of suffering. "Sirius Black," Harry said calmly, though his heart raced. "You're supposed to be trying to kill me." A bark-like laugh escaped the man. "Kill you? I broke out of Azkaban to find you. To protect you." His voice cracked with emotion. "I'm your godfather, Harry." Harry kept the wrench raised. "Prove it." Sirius nodded, as if he'd expected this. "Your parents were James and Lily Potter. I was their best friend. When you were born, James made me your godfather. You used to ride on my shoulders. Your first word was Padfoot, my nickname." Anyone could know that, Harry said, though something about the man's raw emotion felt genuine. "True." Sirius swallowed hard. "The night your parents died. I arrived at the house after it happened. Hagrid was taking you to Dumbledore. I begged to keep you, you were mine by right, but Dumbledore had other plans. I loaned Hagrid my flying motorcycle to transport you. Then I went after the real traitor, Peter Pettigrew. The man you allegedly killed. I didn't kill him, Sirius growled. He framed me. Cut off his own finger, blew up the street, killed those muggles, and escaped. He was the secret keeper, not me. He betrayed your parents to Voldemort. The name made Daphne gasp from where she'd been hiding behind a cabinet. She stepped out, wand raised. Nobody says that name. Sirius's eyes narrowed. Greengrass, right? Cygnus's daughter. My wand is still pointed at you, murderer, Daphne warned. I'm not here to hurt anyone, Sirius said wearily. I just needed to find Harry. To make sure he was okay. His gaze returned to Harry. I heard rumors about a boy with incredible magical talent running a shop in Knockturn Alley. I had to see for myself. Harry lowered the wrench slightly. If you're my godfather, where have you been all my life? Azkaban, Sirius replied bluntly. Wrongfully imprisoned. I saw a newspaper a month ago, had a picture of Pettigrew in his rat form. He's alive, hiding as a pet. I knew I had to escape, to catch him and clear my name. But when I heard about you living in Knockturn Alley instead of safely at Hogwarts. He shook his head. What happened, Harry? Why aren't you at school? Never got a letter, Harry said. Lived with my aunt and uncle until they dumped me in London. Found my way here by accident. Sirius's face darkened with rage. Petunia. They left you with Petunia. Against my explicit wishes, he took a deep breath. I'm so sorry, Harry. I failed you. But I'm here now, if you'll let me help. Harry studied the man carefully. Everything in him wanted to believe Sirius, to have family, a connection to his parents. But years with the Dursleys had taught him caution. If what you're saying is true, every Auror in Britain is looking for you, Harry said. Having you around puts my business at risk. Sirius flinched but nodded. I understand. So we'll need to clear your name, Harry continued, making a sudden decision. And to do that, we need to find this Pettigrew person. Hope bloomed on Sirius's gaunt face. You believe me? Let's say I'm willing to investigate, Harry replied carefully. Daphne, what do you think? She looked between them, clearly conflicted. This is beyond reckless, she finally said. But, the way he talks about you. About your parents. I don't think he's lying. She lowered her wand slightly. If, and it's a massive if, Black is innocent, having him as an ally would be valuable. He knows things about the magical world that we don't. Exactly, Harry said, his mind already racing with possibilities. Sirius, I've been building something here. A business, yes, but also, a kind of independence. I don't answer to the Ministry or Hogwarts or anyone else. If you're really my godfather, I could use your help. Anything, Sirius promised. But Harry, you should be in school, learning properly. I'm learning just fine, Harry interrupted. I've got books. I've got practice. And I've got something most students don't, real-world application. He gestured around the shop. This is just the beginning. I'm going to build something bigger, something that changes how magic is used in Britain. Are you in? A slow smile spread across Sirius's face, the first genuine smile in what must have been years. James would be so proud, he said softly. Your mother too. They never did play by the rules either. As dawn broke over Knockturn Alley, the three unlikely allies, a boy abandoned who refused to be forgotten, a pure-blood girl with vision beyond her years, and an escaped prisoner seeking redemption, began planning a future none of them could have imagined just days before. The magical empire that would shake wizarding Britain to its foundations was officially born. Chapter 2, The Empire rises 3 months after Sirius Black stumbled into his shop, Harry Potter stood in the middle of Second Chance Magic, barely recognizing the place. Gone were the dusty shelves and broken displays. The shop gleamed with polished wood counters, organized repair stations, and glass cases displaying their premium restored items. A steady stream of customers browsed the merchandise while 2 employees, actual paid employees, handled the register and basic repairs. "Not bad for a kid who started with nothing but a wrench and an attitude," Sirius said, clapping Harry on the shoulder. Harry grinned up at his godfather. Sirius still looked rough around the edges, but regular meals and purpose had worked wonders. His hair was cut short, his face was filling out, and glamour charms disguised him as Cyrus Gray, a distant relative helping his nephew run the family business. "We've got a problem," Daphne announced, emerging from the back office with a letter in her hand. Her visits had become daily occurrences, and she now officially handled their business strategy. "Ministry inspection tomorrow. Someone filed a complaint about underage magic use in a commercial establishment." Harry rolled his eyes. "Let me guess, blonde hair, walks like he's got a broomstick up his language," Sirius cut in with a smirk. "But yeah, sounds like Lucius Malfoy's handiwork." "Third complaint this month," Harry muttered. "Guy really doesn't like competition." Daphne handed him the letter. "This is different. It's not from the Department of Magical Commerce. It's from the Department of Magical Education." Sirius frowned. "That's Dumbledore's influence. He's still trying to get you to Hogwarts." Harry's jaw tightened. After learning he'd been famous all these years, that he should have received a Hogwarts letter, he'd written to the headmaster demanding answers. The response had been polite but condescending, concerns about his unusual living situation, suggestions that he return to proper guardianship, and assurances that it wasn't too late to join his peers at Hogwarts. "Not happening," Harry said firmly. "I've learned more practical magic in 3 months than most kids learn in years at that school." It wasn't just bravado. Harry's magical abilities had developed at an astonishing rate. He'd moved beyond simple repairs to actual enchantment, improving the original magical properties of items or adding new ones entirely. Without formal training to limit his thinking, he experimented constantly, combining techniques from different magical disciplines based on intuition rather than tradition. "We need to be strategic about this," Daphne said. "My father can help with the commercial aspects, but the education angle is trickier." Sirius rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "I might have an idea. The law doesn't actually require attendance at Hogwarts, it requires magical education. Historically, some pureblood families hired private tutors. Can we afford that?" Harry asked. Daphne snorted. "Harry, have you seen our accounts lately? We're not just profitable, we're thriving." It was true. What had started as a small repair shop had expanded into multiple service lines: repairs, custom enchantments, recovery of magical properties from damaged items, and their newest venture, refurbished magical items for families who couldn't afford new ones. "Fine," Harry conceded. "Find us some tutors who won't report back to Dumbledore. And we'll need to prepare for this inspection." The next morning, they were ready. The shop was immaculate, all permits displayed prominently, and their books in perfect order. Harry wore his best robes, still nothing fancy, but a far cry from Dudley's hand-me-downs. At precisely 10 o'clock, the shop door opened to admit 3 figures, a pinch-faced witch from the Commerce Department, a bored-looking wizard from Education, and, to Harry's surprise, Lucius Malfoy himself. "Mr. Potter," Malfoy said silkily, "how enterprising to find you running a business rather than attending school like other children your age." "Mr. Malfoy," Harry replied with forced politeness. "I didn't realize you'd taken a job as a ministry inspector. Fallen on hard times?" Malfoy's lip curled. "I'm here as a concerned member of the Hogwarts Board of Governors. Your situation is unprecedented." "Indeed," the education official interjected. "Mr. Potter, I'm Bartholomew Whiffle, Department of Magical Education." We have concerns about your lack of formal magical training. Harry gestured to Cyrus and Daphne. My advisors and I are happy to address those concerns. The inspection was thorough and tense. They examined the shop's operations, questioned Harry about his magical techniques, and reviewed their business records. Malfoy observed it all with barely concealed contempt. While your business appears to be in order, Whiffle finally said, the educational issue remains. Magical children must receive proper instruction. We've anticipated that concern, Daphne said smoothly, presenting a folder. We've contracted with certified tutors in all core magical subjects. Mr. Potter will receive comprehensive education equivalent to or exceeding Hogwarts standards, while continuing his practical application through the business. Whiffle examined the documents, frowning. These are unusually qualified instructors for private tutoring. Only the best for the boy who lived, Sirius said with a wolfish grin. Malfoy stepped forward. This is absurd. The boy clearly needs structure and proper supervision, which he has, Daphne interrupted. As you can see, Mr. Potter has 2 adult guardians, a thriving business that serves the community, and now a comprehensive education plan. There is no legal basis for removing him from this environment. The Commerce Witch nodded. From our department's perspective, everything is in order. Quite impressive, actually, for someone so young. Malfoy's face flushed with anger. This isn't over, Potter. The board will hear about this unusual arrangement. After the inspectors left, Harry, Daphne, and Sirius celebrated their victory with butterbeers in the back room. That was brilliant, Harry said, clinking his bottle against Daphne's. The look on Malfoy's face. Don't get too comfortable, Sirius warned. Lucius doesn't give up easily. And now we actually need to hire those tutors. Already done, Daphne said, sipping her drink. My father called in some favors. They start next week, all with anti-disclosure contracts. Harry shook his head in amazement. You're scary sometimes, you know that. Daphne's smile was all innocence. I prefer efficiently proactive. Over the next few months, Harry's days fell into a new routine, mornings with tutors studying theory, afternoons applying that theory in the shop, and evenings discussing business strategy with Daphne and Sirius. His magical knowledge grew exponentially, unrestricted by the year-by-year approach of Hogwarts. Word continued to spread. Second Chance Magic became the go-to place for difficult magical restorations. Harry's ability to sense and manipulate magical signatures drew customers from beyond Britain, French antique collectors, German magical researchers, even a representative from the Egyptian ministry inquiring about ancient artifact restoration. With success came expanded horizons. Harry, Daphne, and Sirius began discussing bigger plans over dinner at the small apartment Harry had established above the shop. We're hitting the limits of what we can do in Nocturne Alley, Daphne explained, spreading out parchments showing their sales projections. Our reputation has improved, but location still matters. Many respectable wizarding families won't shop here on principle. Sirius nodded. We need a presence in Diagon Alley. Real estate there isn't cheap, Harry pointed out, serving another helping of the stew he'd prepared. Cooking was a skill the Dursleys had inadvertently given him that now came in handy. That's why I've been looking at partnerships, Daphne said. Specifically, with Flourish and Blots. Harry raised an eyebrow. The bookstore? What would they want with us? Their rare book collection, Sirius realized. Some are damaged or losing their enchantments. They've been sending them abroad for restoration at great expense. Daphne nodded. Exactly. I've proposed a mutually beneficial arrangement. We restore their books at a discount, and they give us retail space inside their store. Brilliant, Harry said, genuinely impressed. A shop within a shop. It gets better, Daphne continued. My father's importing business has been seeing increased demand for certain specialty items that arrive damaged in transit. He's proposing a 3-way partnership: Greengrass Imports, flourish and blots, and second chance magic. We'd establish a new brand identity for the expanded operation. Phoenix Enterprises, Sirius suggested suddenly. Harry and Daphne both turned to look at him. What? Sirius shrugged. Phoenixes are all about renewal and second chances. Plus, it has a certain symbolic significance for you, Harry. I like it, Harry decided. Phoenix Enterprises it is. 2 weeks later, Harry stood in the newly renovated corner of Flourish and Blots that now housed Phoenix Enterprises' Diagon Alley location. The grand opening had attracted a substantial crowd, partly from curiosity about the boy who lived's business venture, partly from genuine interest in their services. As Harry demonstrated a particularly complex restoration on an ancient rune dictionary, he caught sight of a familiar platinum blonde head weaving through the crowd. Draco Malfoy, flanked by 2 large boys who could only be described as goons, was approaching the demonstration area with a sneer firmly in place. So this is what the famous Harry Potter does instead of learning proper magic, Draco announced loudly. Fixing other people's trash. The crowd murmured uncomfortably. Harry kept his focus on the book, completing the restoration with a flourish before looking up. Malfoy, he said calmly. Didn't expect to see you here. Heard your family specializes in breaking things, not fixing them. Several onlookers snickered. Draco's pale face flushed pink. You think you're so special, he spat. But everyone knows you're just doing accidental magic. No discipline. No technique. Just dumb luck. Harry set down the restored book carefully. Is that what your father tells you? My father says you're making a mockery of magical tradition, Draco declared. Proper wizards train for years to master what you're pretending to do. Care to test that theory? Harry asked, stepping around the counter. The crowd shifted, forming a circle around them. Draco's hand moved to his wand. You don't even have a wand, Potter. Don't need one, Harry replied with a confidence born of months of intensive practice. But if it makes you feel better. He gestured to a display case, which opened itself. A wand floated out and into his hand, 11 inches of holly with a phoenix feather core, purchased from Ollivander just a week earlier. Draco looked less certain now but was too committed to back down. Fine. Let's see what the great Harry Potter can do. Not in my shop. Mr. Flourish protested, pushing through the crowd. Take it outside if you must. Minutes later, a sizable crowd had gathered in the small courtyard behind the bookshop. Daphne made her way to Harry's side, looking concerned. This is reckless, she whispered. Dueling a Hogwarts student in public? Sometimes you need to make a statement, Harry replied quietly. Malfoy Sr. sent him to discredit us. Time to send a message back. Sirius appeared on Harry's other side, disguised as always. Don't do anything I would do, he advised with a wink. Draco took position opposite Harry, flanked by his friends. Standard dueling rules, he announced. First to disarm or incapacitate wins. Harry nodded, holding his wand loosely. He'd trained with it intensively since purchasing it, but still found wandless magic more intuitive for most purposes. The wand was mostly for show today. An older wizard from the crowd stepped forward to referee. On my count. 3, 2, 1, begin. Draco immediately slashed his wand. Flipendo. A jet of blue light shot toward Harry, who sidestepped it casually. The crowd murmured, impressive reflexes for someone without formal training. Expelliarmus. Draco tried again, his spell flying wide as Harry moved. My turn? Harry asked mildly. He gave his wand a casual flick, saying nothing. 3 small objects flew from his pocket and began circling Draco at high speed. What the? Draco swatted at them ineffectively. Harry made another gesture. The objects, which the crowd now saw were ordinary buttons, began dive-bombing Draco, pinging off his head and shoulders. Fight properly. Draco demanded, trying and failing to hit the buttons with spells. "I am," Harry replied. With a subtle movement of his free hand, the one not holding his wand, he transfigured the ground beneath Draco's feet into a slippery surface. Draco stumbled, nearly falling. The crowd was laughing now. Harry was putting on a show, demonstrating not just magical ability but creative application, making mundane objects into weapons, combining transfiguration with animation charms, all while barely using his wand. Furious and humiliated, Draco abandoned dueling etiquette. Serpensortia. A large black snake erupted from his wand, landing between them. "Not so cocky now, are you, Potter?" The crowd gasped, backing away from the aggressive reptile. Harry, however, smiled. "Really bad choice, Malfoy," he said, before addressing the snake directly. "Hello, friend. Sorry about this. Would you mind heading back to wherever you came from?" The snake froze, then looked up at Harry. "A speaker? How interesting." Several people screamed. Harry realized too late his mistake. Speaking Parseltongue in public was not going to help his reputation. Draco looked horrified. You're a Parselmouth. Dark wizard." Harry sighed. "In for a penny, in for a pound." He hissed again to the snake, "Just a small favor before you go. My opponent could use a little startle." The snake seemed to nod before slithering rapidly toward Draco, who shrieked and backpedaled, tripping over his own feet. His wand flew from his hand as he fell. Harry casually summoned Draco's wand, catching it neatly. "I believe that's a disarm," he said to the referee, who nodded dumbly. With another hiss, Harry vanished the snake, then walked over to Draco, who was still sprawled on the ground. "You can control snakes," Draco said, eyes wide with fear. "Just like, I can talk to them," Harry corrected, handing back Draco's wand. "Big difference. Thanks for the match. You might want to work on your shield charms." As Draco scrambled away with his friends, the crowd remained silent, staring at Harry with a mixture of awe and unease. Parseltongue was associated with dark wizards, particularly Voldemort himself. "Well," Sirius muttered, coming alongside Harry, "that was one way to make an impression." "Not exactly the one we wanted," Daphne added through gritted teeth. Harry faced the crowd squarely. "Yes, I can speak to snakes. It's just a language. Judge me by what I do with my abilities, not the abilities themselves." His words broke the tension. A few people applauded, others nodded thoughtfully, and conversations erupted throughout the crowd as they dispersed. Back inside Phoenix Enterprises, Daphne paced anxiously. "This will be all over the Daily Prophet tomorrow. Boy who lived, next Dark Lord. Or, boy who lived defeats Malfoy heir in friendly duel," Sirius countered. "Depends who gets to the story first." Harry sat calmly, turning his wand over in his hands. "Let them talk. Actions speak louder than rumors." "Speaking of action," Sirius said, "that was impressive magic out there. The transfiguration especially, that's Newt-level work." Harry shrugged. "When you learn by doing rather than by textbook, you don't know what's supposed to be difficult." "That's actually brilliant," Daphne mused, pausing her pacing. "We should leverage that in our marketing. Unbound by tradition. Unlimited by convention. Phoenix Enterprises." Later that evening, as predicted, an owl arrived from Hogwarts. The letter, written in flowing purple script, requested Harry's presence for a meeting with Headmaster Dumbledore at his earliest convenience. "Told you," Sirius said. The snake talking got his attention. "So did humiliating a student in a duel," Daphne added. "And our expanding business. And our education exemption. Take your pick." Harry read the letter twice before setting it aside. "I'll meet him, but on my terms. Not at Hogwarts. Here, at Phoenix." The meeting was arranged for the following afternoon. Harry spent the morning reviewing everything Sirius had told him about Albus Dumbledore, his positions, his influence, his history with Harry's parents. By the time the ancient wizard stepped through the door of Phoenix Enterprises, Harry felt as prepared as he could be. Dumbledore cut an impressive figure in midnight blue robes embroidered with silver stars. His long white beard and half-moon spectacles completed the quintessential wizard image. His eyes, however, were sharp and calculating behind their twinkling facade. "Harry," he said warmly, extending his hand. "At last we meet. You look remarkably like your father, though you have your mother's eyes." Harry shook the offered hand briefly. "Headmaster. Thank you for agreeing to meet here. Your establishment is most impressive," Dumbledore said, glancing around the shop. "May I ask where your guardians are?" "My guardian is present," Harry replied, gesturing to where Sirius stood disguised as Cyrus Grey. "And my business partner will be joining us shortly." On cue, Daphne entered from the back room, projecting composed confidence despite being just shy of 13. "Miss Greengrass," Dumbledore acknowledged with a small bow. "Your father speaks highly of your acumen." "Headmaster," Daphne replied politely. "Shall we use the conference room? More private." In the small but well-appointed room behind the shop, they settled around a table. Harry deliberately took the head position, with Daphne and Sirius flanking him. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled as he noted the power dynamics at play. "I must say, Harry, you've created quite a stir," Dumbledore began. "Professor McGonagall was most disappointed when you didn't arrive for sorting 2 years ago. We were quite concerned." "I never received my letter," Harry said bluntly. "Strange, considering how famous I apparently am." Dumbledore's expression turned sorrowful. "A most unfortunate oversight. The magic that tracks potential students failed to locate you properly, perhaps due to the powerful protections around your aunt's home." "Protections that didn't prevent my uncle from abandoning me in London," Harry noted. "A grave failure for which I take full responsibility," Dumbledore said, surprising Harry with his candor. "I had placed you with your mother's sister for your protection, blood wards based on your mother's sacrifice. I checked on you periodically through a neighbor, Mrs. Figg, but clearly not closely enough." "Mrs. Figg?" Harry frowned, remembering the odd cat lady who sometimes watched him. "She's a witch." "A squib," Dumbledore clarified. "Non-magical person from a magical family. She reported you were, not perhaps happy, but safe." Harry laughed bitterly. "Safe. Right." Sirius shifted uncomfortably beside him, and Harry knew his godfather was struggling not to reveal himself and confront Dumbledore directly about placing Harry with the Dursleys against his parents' wishes. Dumbledore studied Harry over his spectacles. "You've done remarkably well for yourself, Harry. Your magical aptitude is extraordinary. But I wonder if you understand the dangers of your situation." "You mean Voldemort's followers?" Harry asked, deliberately using the name. "Or the Ministry's discomfort with an underage wizard running a business? Or perhaps Lucius Malfoy's attempts to shut us down?" "All of those," Dumbledore acknowledged, "and Voldemort himself." Harry raised an eyebrow. "Most people think he's dead." "Most people are mistaken," Dumbledore said simply. "He is weakened, disembodied, but not gone. And when he returns, and he will, Harry, you will be his primary target." Silence fell over the room. Daphne looked pale, while Sirius's disguised face had hardened into a mask of determination. "That's why you want me at Hogwarts," Harry realized. "Protection." Dumbledore nodded. "Among other reasons. Your education, of course. The companionship of your peers. And yes, the castle's ancient protections." "I'm getting an education," Harry countered. "I have companions. And I'm developing my own protections." "Indeed you are," Dumbledore agreed. "Your practical magical abilities are most impressive. But magic is more than spells and enchantments, Harry. It's understanding the deeper connections, the ancient forces, the very nature of power itself." Harry leaned forward. Then teach me. Not as a Hogwarts student, but as an apprentice. I'll come to the castle twice a week for special instruction, while maintaining my business and independent studies. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose in surprise. This clearly wasn't what he had expected. An interesting proposition, he said slowly. Not without precedent, historically speaking. Hogwarts has hosted apprentices in centuries past. He stroked his beard thoughtfully. It would allow you access to the castle's resources while respecting your independent nature. Exactly, Harry said, sensing victory. I get knowledge I can't access elsewhere. You get to ensure my education in areas you deem important. Win-win. Daphne shot him an impressed look. This wasn't part of their pre-meeting strategy, but she clearly approved of the improvisation. There would be conditions, Dumbledore said. Regular assessments. Adherence to school rules while on the grounds. No disruption of the student body. Reasonable, Harry agreed. I have conditions too. My business obligations come first if there's a conflict. My tutors continue their instruction. And I maintain my independent living arrangement. Dumbledore studied him for a long moment, those piercing blue eyes seeming to look through Harry rather than at him. Harry felt a slight pressure in his mind and, remembering Sirius's warnings about legilimency, quickly focused on his shop's inventory, boring, detailed, but not revealing. The pressure withdrew, and Dumbledore smiled faintly. Your mother was similarly adept at compartmentalizing her thoughts. A natural occlumens. Harry kept his face neutral, filing that information away for later. I believe we can come to an arrangement, Dumbledore finally said. Tuesdays and Thursdays, beginning next month. We'll formalize the details in writing. They shook hands on it, and Dumbledore rose to leave. At the door, he paused. One more thing, Harry. I couldn't help noticing your partnership with young Miss Greengrass. The Greengrass family has historically maintained neutrality in wizarding conflicts. Admirable, but perhaps, limiting in the challenges to come. Harry felt Daphne tense beside him. The Greengrasses have been loyal allies, he said firmly. I choose my friends based on their actions, not their family histories. Wisely said, Dumbledore replied with a slight bow. Until next month, then. After he departed, the three of them gathered in the conference room to debrief. That went better than expected, Daphne said. The apprenticeship idea was inspired. It gives us access to Hogwarts resources without surrendering Harry's independence, Sirius agreed, removing his disguise charms now that they were alone. Though I'm not sure how much to trust Dumbledore's version of events. He was editing the truth, Harry said confidently. Not lying outright, but definitely not telling us everything. He turned to Sirius. Did you know my mother was an occlumens? Sirius looked surprised. Lily was intensely private about her thoughts, but I never knew she had formal training. Makes sense though, she always seemed to know when James and I were up to no good. I need to learn that skill, Harry decided. If Dumbledore tried to read my mind, others will too. I can help with that, Daphne offered. My family has books on the subject. It's considered an essential skill in pureblood political circles. Harry nodded gratefully, then refocused. Dumbledore confirmed what you suspected, Sirius. Voldemort's not gone for good. And he'll come after you when he returns, Daphne added soberly. Then we better be ready, Harry said with determination. Which means expanding faster than planned. Daphne, accelerate the negotiations with the international contacts. Sirius, we need to push forward on the Pettigrew investigation, clearing your name becomes a priority. His companions nodded, and Harry felt a surge of gratitude for their loyalty. From abandoned street kid to business owner with trusted allies in just a few months, it was more than he'd ever dreamed possible. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. Phoenix Enterprises officially launched with locations in both Diagon and Nocturne alleys. Their client list expanded to include several ministry departments seeking discreet restoration of sensitive magical artifacts. Harry's duel with Draco, rather than hurting their reputation, had actually increased interest in their services, though the Parseltongue revelation had indeed sparked sensationalist headlines. Harry's first session at Hogwarts approached rapidly. The day before his scheduled appearance, a familiar snowy owl delivered an unexpected letter. Harry had purchased Hedwig shortly after establishing his shop, and she'd proven invaluable for business correspondence. "It's from Gringotts," Harry announced, scanning the parchment. "They want a meeting tomorrow morning. Something about irregular account activity and inheritance matters." Sirius frowned. "That's odd timing. Your Hogwarts visit isn't public knowledge yet." "Could be coincidence," Daphne suggested, though she didn't sound convinced. "Or someone at Gringotts has connections at Hogwarts," Harry mused. "Either way, I should go. My parents' vault might contain information we need." The next morning found Harry in a private conference room at Gringotts, face to face with a senior goblin named Nagnock. Sirius waited outside, still disguised. Goblins could detect certain magical concealments, making his presence too risky. "Mr. Potter," Nagnock began without preamble, "we have noted with interest your business activities over the past 6 months. Quite impressive for one so young." "Thank you," Harry replied, sensing there was more coming. "We've also noted that you've been operating without access to your family's resources." Nagnock pushed a folder across the table. "This is an accounting of the Potter assets currently under Gringotts management." Harry opened the folder and nearly gasped. The number at the bottom of the first page had far more zeros than he'd anticipated. "This can't be right," he said. "I was told I had a trust vault for school expenses, but this is the full Potter estate," Nagnock confirmed. "The trust vault is merely a small portion set aside for your education. The main family vault contains significantly more: investments, properties, heirlooms, and, of course, liquid assets." Harry struggled to comprehend the figures. "Why am I only learning about this now? I've been a client for months." Nagnock's expression, already severe as was typical for goblins, darkened further. "That is precisely the irregularity we wished to discuss. When you first visited Gringotts at age 11 with Rubeus Hagrid, you should have been informed of your full inheritance. Our records indicate this did not occur." "It didn't," Harry confirmed. "Hagrid only mentioned the trust vault." "Most concerning," Nagnock said. "Additionally, there have been regular withdrawals from your accounts over the past 12 years, small amounts from the trust, authorized by your magical guardian for your maintenance." Harry's eyes narrowed. "My magical guardian? Who authorized these withdrawals?" "Albus Dumbledore, as chief warlock of the Wizengamot, assumed the role after your parents' death and your godfather's incarceration." Harry felt a cold anger building. "I never saw a canute of that maintenance money. I lived in a cupboard under the stairs wearing my cousin's cast-offs and often went hungry." Nagnock's eyes widened slightly, a significant reaction for a goblin. "That is a serious accusation, Mr. Potter. Misappropriation of a client's funds is something Gringotts takes extremely seriously." "I want a full accounting," Harry said firmly. "Every withdrawal, every authorization. And I want to know what else has been kept from me." Over the next 2 hours, Harry learned more about his family's financial situation than he'd ever imagined. The Potters had been wealthy for generations, not in the same league as the Malfoys or the Black family, but certainly comfortable. They owned several properties, including the damaged cottage in Godric's Hollow and a family manor house that had been sealed since his parents' death. Most significantly, Harry discovered he was the majority shareholder in several magical businesses, including a potion supply company and, ironically, Quality Quidditch Supplies, one of the most successful shops in Diagon Alley. "I want to visit my family vault," Harry decided once they'd reviewed the documentation. "Today." Nagnock nodded. "As you wish. You are entitled, despite your age." The Potter family magic will recognize you. The journey deep into the bowels of Gringotts was harrowing, but Harry's mind was too preoccupied to be bothered by the wild cart ride. When they finally stopped before a massive door bearing the Potter crest, a shield with a griffin rampant, Harry felt a strange tingle of recognition. "Place your hand on the door," Nagnok instructed. "If you are truly the Potter heir, it will open." Harry did as instructed. The moment his palm touched the cool metal, he felt a sharp sting, followed by a warm rush of something flowing up his arm. The door glowed golden for a moment, then swung silently open. The contents took his breath away. Mountains of gold, silver, and bronze coins occupied only a portion of the vast chamber. The rest held furniture, paintings, armor, weapons, books, and countless magical artifacts. An entire section appeared to be devoted to jewelry and gemstones. "Take your time, Mr. Potter," Nagnok said respectfully. "Many heirs find their first visit overwhelming." Harry moved slowly through the vault, drawn to different objects almost instinctively. A glass case containing what appeared to be family wands. A bookshelf filled with journals and family grimoires. A weapons rack holding beautifully crafted swords and daggers. Near the back, he discovered a large trunk with his mother's initials, LEP. Opening it revealed neatly organized research notes, experimental potions journals, and personal correspondence. Harry's throat tightened as he ran his fingers over his mother's handwriting. Another trunk, bearing his father's initials, contained what appeared to be Auror training materials, Quidditch memorabilia, and a small wooden box that, when opened, revealed 4 items, a blank parchment, a silvery cloak, a small mirror, and a letter addressed simply, to Harry. With trembling fingers, Harry unfolded the letter. "Dear Harry, if you're reading this, then Lily and I are gone, and you've finally claimed your heritage. I hope you're at least 17, with Hogwarts behind you and a bright future ahead. Knowing Padfoot, he's probably filled your head with stories of our misspent youth and corrupted you thoroughly. Good man. The items in this box represent the legacy of the Marauders. The cloak is your birthright, an heirloom passed down through generations of Potters. The map, blank parchment, and mirror were our creations. Tap the map with your wand and say, 'I solemnly swear that I am up to no good,' to activate it. The mirror is paired with one Sirius has, say his name to it, and you can communicate. There's so much more I want to tell you, son. About your mother's brilliance. About your godfather's loyalty. About our hopes and dreams for you. But most importantly, I want you to know that whatever path you choose, we are proud of you. The Potter legacy is now yours to shape. With all my love, Dad, James, P.S. If Sirius managed to get himself killed or imprisoned, check the Black family tapestry. The Marauders always had contingency plans." Harry clutched the letter tightly, tears streaming down his face. His father's words, casual, loving, hopeful, hit him harder than he'd expected. And the mention of Sirius, so casually included, made his heart ache for what might have been. After composing himself, Harry carefully packed the trunk's contents into a satchel provided by Nagnok, along with selected books from his mother's collection and several of the family grimoires. He also took a modest amount of gold, though now that he knew about his holdings, Phoenix Enterprises could potentially access much more significant funding. "I'll be making changes to my account management," Harry informed Nagnok as they returned to the surface. "First, I want all withdrawals authorized by Dumbledore to stop immediately. Second, I'll need regular reports on all my holdings. And third, I want to explore how Gringotts might partner with Phoenix Enterprises for certain ventures." Nagnok looked intrigued by this last point. "Goblins rarely partner with wizard businesses, Mr. Potter. What did you have in mind?" "Your craftsmen are unparalleled with metalwork and enchantment," Harry said. "Phoenix specializes in restoration and reclamation of magical properties. I see potential complementary services that could benefit both our interests." By the time Harry left Gringotts, he had not only reclaimed his inheritance but laid the groundwork for a potentially revolutionary partnership. Goblins had worked for wizards for centuries but rarely with them as equals. If Harry could change that dynamic, the possibilities were enormous. Sirius was waiting anxiously outside. "How did it go?" he asked as soon as they were a safe distance from the bank. Harry handed him the small mirror from his father's trunk. "You might want this back." Sirius stared at the mirror, his eyes widening in shock. "The communication mirror. James and I used these during separate detentions." He looked up at Harry. "Where did you find it?" "In my family vault," Harry explained, quickly filling Sirius in on everything he'd discovered. "My dad left me a letter." "He mentioned you specifically." Sirius's eyes glistened. "That sounds like James." He held the mirror reverently. "These still work, you know. Mine would be at my family home, if it hasn't been destroyed." "Speaking of which," Harry said, "Dad mentioned something about a black family tapestry and contingency plans." Sirius's expression shifted from nostalgic to calculating. "The tapestries at Grimmauld Place, the black family home in London. It shows the entire family tree." His eyes widened suddenly. "Harry, this could be it. The evidence we need to clear my name might be right there in plain sight." "How so?" Harry asked as they hurried back toward Phoenix Enterprises. "The black family tapestry is linked to our bloodline magically," Sirius explained. "If a family member dies, their death date appears automatically. If Peter's still alive, the tapestry will confirm it." "But Peter wasn't a black," Harry pointed out. "No, but James and I did something incredibly reckless during 7th year," Sirius said, a manic energy in his voice. "We performed a Blood Brothers ritual, added each other to our family magics. It was mostly symbolic, but, if it took hold strongly enough, Peter might have been recorded on the tapestry when James officially made him your godfather." Harry quickened his pace. "Then we need to visit this Grimmauld Place immediately." "It won't be pleasant," Sirius warned. "The place was a mausoleum of dark magic even when I was growing up. After 12 years of abandonment." "Doesn't matter," Harry said firmly. "If it could clear your name, we're going." When they arrived at Phoenix Enterprises, Daphne was waiting with news of her own. "I've heard back from the American contact," she announced excitedly. "The Salem Witches Institute is interested in our self-stirring cauldrons. They want 500 for their potions department." Harry grinned. "That's our biggest order yet." "That's not all," Daphne continued. "I've been thinking about your Hogwarts apprenticeship. It's a perfect opportunity to recruit all those students with broken or outdated equipment. We could offer a special student discount and grow our client base exponentially." "Brilliant as always," Harry said, squeezing her hand impulsively. Daphne blushed slightly, and Harry quickly moved on. "But we've got something even bigger to deal with right now." After Harry explained the Gringotts revelations and the potential evidence at Grimmauld Place, Daphne's eyes lit up with strategic possibilities. "If we can clear Sirius's name, everything changes," she said. "He becomes your legal guardian, we gain access to the Black family resources, and our political position strengthens enormously." Sirius looked at her with newfound respect. "You really are a Slytherin, aren't you?" "Thank you," Daphne replied primly. Their expedition to 12, Grimmauld Place was planned for that evening, after Harry's first Hogwarts apprenticeship session. Despite the momentous discoveries at Gringotts, Harry wasn't about to miss his opportunity to access Hogwarts resources. Arriving at the castle's massive gates, Harry felt a strange mix of emotions. This should have been his school, his home for the past 2 years. Yet now he was entering as an outsider, an independent operator with his own agenda. Professor McGonagall met him at the entrance, a stern-looking witch whose piercing gaze made Harry feel thoroughly examined. "Mr. Potter," she said, her Scottish brogue pronounced. "At last. You've caused quite a stir these past months." "Professor McGonagall," Harry replied politely. "Thank you for accommodating this unusual arrangement." Something that might have been amusement flickered in her eyes. Unusual arrangements seemed to follow Potters like familiars. Your father had quite the talent for them as well. She led him through the castle, explaining the basic layout and history. Harry absorbed it all, fascinated despite himself by the ancient building with its moving staircases, talking portraits, and palpable magic. Students stared as they passed, whispering behind their hands. Harry caught fragments. That's Harry Potter, the snake speaker, the one who beat Malfoy, and kept his expression neutral. The attention was uncomfortable but expected. Dumbledore waited in his office, a circular room filled with strange silver instruments, overflowing bookshelves, and portraits of previous headmasters. A magnificent red and gold bird perched near his desk. "Welcome to Hogwarts, Harry," Dumbledore said warmly. "I see Minerva has given you the introductory tour. What are your impressions of the castle?" "It's impressive," Harry admitted honestly. "I can feel the magic in the walls." Dumbledore nodded approvingly. "Few your age would notice that. The ambient magic of Hogwarts has accumulated over 1,000 years, layer upon layer of spells, enchantments, and magical residue from countless students and teachers." The bird trilled a lovely note and flew to land on the desk between them. "This is Fawkes," Dumbledore introduced. "A phoenix and a dear friend." Harry stared at the magnificent creature, struck by the coincidence, or was it, of naming his business after such a being. "He's beautiful." Fawkes tilted his head, studying Harry with intelligent eyes, then hopped closer and gently butted his head against Harry's hand. A warm, peaceful feeling flowed through him at the contact. "He likes you," Dumbledore observed. "Phoenixes are excellent judges of character." The next 2 hours were filled with assessments, Dumbledore testing Harry's knowledge of magical theory, his practical abilities, and his understanding of various magical disciplines. Harry demonstrated what he'd learned from his tutors and his own experimentation, careful to show enough to impress but not enough to reveal the full extent of his capabilities. "Remarkable," Dumbledore said finally. "Your approach to magic is quite unlike anything I've seen in a first-year student, or even a third year, which would be your proper cohort." "Is that good or bad?" Harry asked. "Both, perhaps," Dumbledore replied thoughtfully. "You've developed extraordinary practical skills without the limiting framework of traditional education. However, there are gaps in your foundational knowledge that could become problematic as you attempt more complex magic." Harry nodded. That matched his own assessment. "For our next session," Dumbledore continued, "I'd like to focus on magical theory, specifically the interconnections between different branches of magic. Understanding these connections will help you channel your considerable raw talent more efficiently." "That sounds useful," Harry agreed. "Before you go," Dumbledore said, "there is one more thing." He reached into his desk and withdrew a familiar-looking cloak. "This belonged to your father. He loaned it to me shortly before he died. I've been waiting for the right time to return it." Harry accepted the silvery cloak, recognizing it from his father's trunk. "I already have one," he said without thinking. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. "Indeed? How curious. This is an invisibility cloak of exceptional quality, far superior to common varieties. It has been in your family for generations." Harry realized his mistake but didn't back down. "I found one in my family vault today. Along with some other heirlooms." "Ah," Dumbledore said, his tone careful. "I see you visited Gringotts. I had planned to introduce you to your inheritance gradually, but perhaps that was an error in judgment." "One of several," Harry replied coolly. Dumbledore sighed. "You refer to the maintenance withdrawals. And the fact that my magical guardian never actually checked on me," Harry added. "Or that I wasn't informed of my family properties. Or that I was placed with abusive relatives against my parents' expressed wishes. I have made mistakes, Harry," Dumbledore admitted. "Grievous ones, in retrospect. I placed too much importance on the blood protection and too little on your happiness and welfare. For that, I am truly sorry." Harry studied the old wizard, searching for deception but finding what appeared to be genuine remorse. "Why?" he asked simply. "Fear," Dumbledore replied, surprising Harry with his candor. "Fear of what would happen if the protection failed. Fear of Voldemort's followers finding you. The Blood Wards were the strongest protection I could provide. Yet here I am, unprotected and unharmed," Harry pointed out. "For now," Dumbledore said gravely. "But the landscape is changing, Harry. There are movements in the shadows. Voldemort's supporters growing bolder. Signs of his potential return growing stronger." Harry thought of his own shadow dwellers, the cloaked figures he occasionally glimpsed watching his shop, the anonymous threats Phoenix had received, the increasingly hostile actions from certain ministry departments. "Then we better make these sessions count," Harry said. "I need to be ready." That evening, as promised, Harry, Sirius, and Daphne made their way to Grimmauld Place. The house was hidden by powerful enchantments, but as the black air, Sirius could pierce them. The building that appeared between numbers 11 and 13 was imposing, grim, and radiated dark magic. "Home sweet home," Sirius muttered bitterly as they approached. Inside was worse, years of neglect had left the place filthy and decaying. Strange noises echoed from darkened corners, and the walls themselves seemed to whisper with malevolence. "Filth! Blood traitor! Shame of my flesh!" The screams erupted as soon as they entered the hallway, emanating from a life-sized portrait of a severe-looking woman. "And that would be my mother," Sirius said grimly. "Charming, isn't she?" After several failed attempts to silence the portrait, they moved deeper into the house, encountering further horrors, mounted house elf heads, cursed objects, and a boggart that nearly gave Daphne a heart attack when it transformed into her sister's corpse. Finally, they located the tapestry in a gloomy drawing room on the first floor. It covered an entire wall, showing the sprawling black family tree dating back centuries. "There I am," Sirius pointed to a burned spot. "Blasted off by my loving mother when I ran away at 16. He traced his finger along another branch. "And there's where James would be connected, if the blood ritual took." Sure enough, a faint golden line extended from Sirius's burned spot to a small entry marked, "James Potter." Below it, another link connected to, "Harry Potter." It worked, Harry breathed. The ritual actually worked. "Now let's see if Peter." Sirius's voice trailed off as he searched frantically. "There," he finally exclaimed, pointing to a tiny branch extending from James's name. "Peter Pettigrew," Harry read. "Born 1960. No death date. He's alive." Sirius's face contorted with rage and vindication. "The rat is alive." "This is evidence," Daphne said excitedly. "Magical evidence from an ancient artifact. It won't be enough on its own, but combined with memories and testimony under Veritaserum. We can clear your name," Harry finished, gripping Sirius's shoulder tightly. "We can make you free." As they prepared to leave the gloomy house, a withered house elf appeared, mumbling invectives and glaring at them with bloodshot eyes. "Master Sirius returns, oh yes, breaking my mistress's heart, bringing the half-blood and the, shut it, creature," Sirius snapped. "I'm still your master, whether you like it or not." Harry studied the pitiful creature, noting its ragged pillowcase clothing and bent posture. An idea formed. "Creature, do you maintain this house by yourself?" The elf looked surprised at being addressed directly. "Creature tends the noble house of Black, yes, tries to keep the filth away, preserve mistress's treasures." Harry nodded thoughtfully. "What if you had help? And proper resources to restore the house to its former glory?" Both Sirius and Creature stared at him in confusion. "I don't want to restore this mausoleum," Sirius said. "I want to burn it down." "Hear me out," Harry urged. "We need a headquarters, somewhere secure, unplottable, and large enough for expanded operations. This place has powerful protections already in place." He turned back to the elf. "Creature, would you be willing to work with other elves to make this house great again? To honor the noble house of Black. The elf's bloodshot eyes widened. Kreacher, could restore Mistress's home properly? With help? Absolutely, Harry confirmed. Under your supervision, of course, as the senior elf. A calculating look crossed the ancient elf's face. Master Sirius must promise not to destroy Mistress's treasures. Sirius looked ready to refuse, but Harry cut in smoothly. We'll assess each item carefully. Dark objects will be secured, not destroyed. Family heirlooms will be respected. Is that acceptable to both of you? After a moment's hesitation, both wizard and elf grudgingly nodded. Excellent, Harry said. Kreacher, please prepare a list of what you'll need for the restoration. We'll begin next week. As they left the decrepit house, Sirius shook his head in amazement. Did you just negotiate peace between me and that foul little monster? I recognized an opportunity, Harry replied simply. Kreacher has valuable knowledge about the house and its contents. And house elves have their own powerful magic. We'd be fools to waste such resources. Daphne smiled proudly. You're thinking like a true CEO now. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Armed with evidence from the Black family tapestry, they began carefully building their case to clear Sirius's name. Daphne's father arranged a discreet meeting with Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, who was known for her fairness and incorruptibility. Meanwhile, Phoenix Enterprises continued to expand. The shop within Flourish and Blots proved so successful that they opened a similar arrangement with Slug and Jigger's Apothecary, focusing on restored potions equipment. Harry's monthly visits to Hogwarts gave him access not only to Dumbledore's considerable knowledge but also to a growing network of student clients and contacts. The Grimmauld Place renovation began in earnest, with Kreacher supervising a team of free elves Harry hired at generous wages, a concept that scandalized traditional wizarding families but earned him fierce loyalty from the elves themselves. As autumn turned to winter, Harry, Sirius, and Daphne gathered in the newly renovated study at Grimmauld Place for a strategy meeting. The room, once gloomy and oppressive, now featured warm wood paneling, comfortable furniture, and excellent lighting, while still maintaining the impressive Black family aesthetic. We're ready for the next phase, Harry announced, spreading out parchments on the large desk. Phoenix Enterprises is established and profitable. Sirius's case is building momentum with Madame Bones. Our network extends from Nocturne Alley to Hogwarts. It's time to formalize our structure. What are you thinking? Daphne asked, taking her usual seat beside him. A proper corporation, Harry explained. Phoenix Enterprises as the parent company, with specialized divisions underneath, restoration, custom enchantment, educational supplies, international trade, and research and development. Sirius whistled. Ambitious. Necessary, Harry countered. We're growing too rapidly for our current structure. Plus, I've been thinking about what Dumbledore said, about Voldemort's eventual return. We need to be prepared on multiple fronts. Daphne nodded thoughtfully. A corporate structure provides both legal protections and operational flexibility. It also allows us to involve more allies without revealing everything to everyone. Exactly, Harry agreed. Each division head will know their area fully but have only limited information about the others. Only the three of us will see the complete picture. Speaking of allies, Sirius interjected, what about recruiting more of your school peers? You've mentioned this Hermione Granger several times, the one who keeps pestering you with questions during your Hogwarts visits. Harry considered this. She's brilliant, no question. Probably the smartest student in the school. But she's also rule-oriented and worships authority figures. I'm not sure she'd understand our more creative approaches. People can surprise you, Daphne said. Besides, having someone with that mindset could help us navigate regulatory issues more effectively. The discussion continued late into the evening, mapping out corporate structures, identifying potential allies, and planning their next strategic moves. By the time they finished, Phoenix Enterprises had evolved from a simple repair shop to the foundation of what Harry was now privately thinking of as his empire. The next morning, Harry stood before the newly installed Phoenix statue in the atrium of their Diagon Alley headquarters, a converted townhouse purchased with funds from his family vault. The bronze bird gleamed in the winter sunlight streaming through the skylight, wings spread in an eternal moment of rebirth. "Sir," a young assistant approached nervously, "the Daily Prophet reporter is here for your interview." Harry nodded, straightening his robes, no longer second-hand, but custom-made in a style of his own choosing. "Send her in." As he prepared to publicly announce the formal establishment of Phoenix Enterprises as a registered magical corporation, Harry reflected on the whirlwind journey from abandoned street kid to emerging business leader. He thought of his parents, whose legacy had helped make this possible. Of Sirius, whose guidance and support had proven invaluable. Of Daphne, whose strategic brilliance complemented his own intuitive approach to magic and business. Most of all, he thought about the future, not just his own, but that of the wizarding world itself. Change was coming, whether through Voldemort's return or through the natural evolution of magical society. Either way, Harry Potter would be ready. The reporter entered, quick quotes quill already hovering beside her. "Mr. Potter," she began with a practiced smile, "at just 13 years old, you've established what some are calling a magical business empire. How did a boy with no formal training accomplish so much in so little time?" Harry smiled confidently. "I started with nothing but determination and raw talent. The rest is a story of seizing opportunities others overlooked." He gestured to the Phoenix statue. "Like the creature we're named for, Phoenix Enterprises represents renewal and transformation, taking what's broken and making it not just whole again, but better than before." "And what's next for the boy who lived and his extraordinary business venture?" the reporter asked. Harry's green eyes gleamed with purpose. "Something the wizarding world hasn't seen before. This is just the beginning." Chapter 3, The Boy King. Harry stared at the map covering the entire wall of his private office. Glowing dots marked Phoenix Enterprise locations across Britain, 12 and counting. Red for headquarters, blue for retail shops, green for research facilities, and purple for warehouses. 6 months ago, they'd had 2 locations. Now they dominated magical retail from London to Hogsmeade. "Admiring your kingdom?" Daphne leaned against the doorframe, a teasing smile on her face. At 13, she'd grown taller, her blonde hair now styled in a sophisticated bob that made her look older than her years. More importantly, her strategic mind had sharpened to a razor's edge. "Just tracking our expansion," Harry replied, though he couldn't help grinning. "The Hogsmeade location is outperforming projections by 30%. That's because half of Hogwarts raids their allowance to buy our enchanted quills," Daphne said, crossing the room to stand beside him. "The self-correcting feature for spelling errors is genius." "Hermione's idea," Harry admitted. "Speaking of which." The door burst open as a bushy-haired girl rushed in, arms full of parchments. "Harry. I've finalized the enchantment array for the Remembrall upgrade. Instead of just turning red, it now displays what you've forgotten in tiny projected text. Look." Hermione Granger, Hogwarts' brightest student and Phoenix's newest team member, thrust a glass orb toward them. It glowed red, then projected "lunch meeting with Nagnock at 1 p.m. in the air above it. "Bloody brilliant," Harry said, checking his watch. "And timely. That's in 20 minutes. Hermione beamed, then immediately switched to business mode. "I've prepared market analysis suggesting we could charge 15 galleons per unit and still expect to sell 500 in the first month alone. Production costs are," "Breathe, Hermione," Daphne interrupted gently. "Save the details for the product development meeting." Recruiting Hermione had been one of Harry's smartest moves. After months of her peppering him with questions during his Hogwarts visits, he'd finally offered her a paid research position for the summer. Her parents had initially balked at their daughter working instead of vacationing, but the educational opportunity, and generous compensation, eventually won them over. "How's Sirius's meeting going?" Harry asked, gathering his notes for the Gringotts lunch. Still ongoing, Hermione reported. The Wisengamot session entered closed deliberations 30 minutes ago. We have watchers stationed throughout the ministry. The moment there's news, you'll know. Today marked the culmination of their months-long campaign to clear Sirius's name. With evidence from the Black family tapestry, testimony from strategic allies, and memories examined by Amelia Bones herself, they'd finally forced a formal hearing. If all went well, Sirius would walk out a free man. He'll be cleared, Daphne said confidently, briefly squeezing Harry's hand. The evidence is overwhelming. The casual touch sent a now familiar flutter through Harry's stomach. Over the past months, their relationship had evolved from purely business to something more. Nothing was official, they were both too focused on building Phoenix, but the shift was undeniable. Mr. Potter, a house elf, appeared with a soft pop. Master Ripjaw has arrived with today's intelligence briefing. Send him to the secure room, Harry instructed. I'll be there in 5 minutes. After the elf disappeared, Hermione gave him a reproachful look. You know I don't approve of your Knockturn Alley information network. Which is why you're not included in those meetings, Harry replied evenly. Plausible deniability, remember? 6 months earlier, Harry had recognized the need for better intelligence about the movements of potential enemies. Rather than building a network from scratch, he'd approached the goblins of Gringotts with a proposition. They already gathered enormous amounts of information through their banking operations, why not formalize and expand that into a proper intelligence service? The result was a joint venture, Ripjaw's Information Services. Officially, it provided market research to Phoenix Enterprises. Unofficially, it tracked everything from Death Eater activities to ministry corruption to international magical developments. Just be careful, Hermione warned. Some of what they do skirts the law. Everything they do is legal, Daphne corrected. Just, creatively interpreted. Harry slipped into the secure conference room, where a severe-looking goblin waited impatiently. Ripjaw, Harry nodded respectfully. What news? Concerning developments on multiple fronts, the goblin reported without preamble. First, Lucius Malfoy has liquidated significant holdings through 3 separate Gringotts accounts. Approximately 50,000 galleons converted to foreign currency. Flight money, Harry mused. He's preparing contingencies. Second, Ripjaw continued, our sources within Knockturn Alley report increased activity at Borgin and Burke's. Multiple meetings involving known associates of former Death Eaters. Names: Knott, Crabbe, Goyle, and most recently, Walden McNair. Harry frowned. McNair worked for the Ministry, Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. That suggested potential Ministry infiltration. Third, Ripjaw's voice lowered, and most concerning, 3 of our tracking charms placed on rare dark artifacts have activated simultaneously after years of dormancy. All 3 items were once associated with you-know-who. The hairs on Harry's neck stood up. Which items? A locket formerly belonging to Salazar Slytherin. A cup bearing Helga Hufflepuff's crest. And a tiara matching the description of Rowena Ravenclaw's lost diadem. Founder's artifacts, Harry breathed. All moving at once after years of stillness. Precisely, Ripjaw nodded grimly. Someone is gathering them. Or something, Harry muttered. Dumbledore's warnings about Voldemort's eventual return suddenly felt more immediate. Have your people track the movements. I want to know where those artifacts end up. Already in progress, Ripjaw assured him. Though I should warn you, the tracking charms are ancient and may eventually fail. After the goblin departed, Harry remained in the secure room, thinking. The pieces were aligning in a troubling pattern, Malfoy preparing escape funds, Death Eater meetings, Founder's artifacts moving. Something was brewing. His pocket watch chimed, reminding him of his lunch meeting with Nagnock. Harry pushed the troubling intelligence to the back of his mind and headed to Gringotts. The partnership with the goblins had proven surprisingly fruitful. What began as a simple business relationship had evolved into a revolutionary collaboration. Phoenix's restoration techniques combined with goblin metallurgy had created entirely new magical processes. Their jointly developed products, self-repairing cauldrons, enhanced remembrals, and magically adaptive tools, were transforming the market. Nagnok awaited him in a private dining room within Gringotts. Unlike most wizard-goblin interactions, which remained stiffly formal, their meetings had developed a genuine camaraderie. "Potter," Nagnok greeted him. "Your timing is impeccable. The production samples just arrived." On the table sat a row of gleaming objects, the first products from their joint manufacturing venture. "They're beautiful," Harry said, examining a silver pocket watch that adjusted its time based on the owner's schedule and priorities. "Mass production begins next week?" "Indeed," Nagnok confirmed. The announcement at the Ministry Gala should generate substantial interest. The upcoming Ministry Summer Gala would mark Phoenix's formal entry into the international market. As a sponsor of the event, they'd secured a prime opportunity to showcase their newest innovations to foreign dignitaries and potential partners. About the gala, Harry began cautiously. Given Ripya's latest intelligence, additional security measures are already being implemented, Nagnok assured him. Both visible and less visible. Their conversation shifted to production schedules and profit-sharing arrangements. By the time they finished lunch, Harry had almost managed to push aside his concerns about the Death Eater activity. Almost. As Harry exited Gringotts, a silver dog Patronus bounded up to him. Sirius's voice emerged, free and cleared. "Meet at headquarters. Bringing guests. Big news." Harry grinned, quickening his pace toward Phoenix's Diagon Alley headquarters. Sirius Free meant their family alliance was now legitimate and public. The political landscape had just shifted dramatically in their favor. The atrium of Phoenix headquarters buzzed with excitement when Harry arrived. Employees whispered among themselves, casting curious glances toward his private conference room. Harry nodded greetings as he passed, maintaining the calm, confident demeanor that had become his public persona. He opened the conference room door to find a celebration in progress. Sirius, looking more handsome and healthy than Harry had ever seen him, was pouring champagne for a small group that included Daphne, her father Cygnus, Amelia Bones, and surprisingly, Andromeda Tonks, Sirius's cousin who had been disowned from the Black family for marrying a Muggleborn. "Harry!" Sirius exclaimed, pulling him into a bear hug. "Your godfather is officially an innocent man." "Congratulations," Harry said, returning the embrace. "Never doubted it for a second. Mr. Potter." Amelia Bones stepped forward, extending her hand. The stern-faced head of magical law enforcement fixed him with an appraising look. "Your efforts in uncovering this miscarriage of justice were unconventional but effective." "Thank you, Madam Bones," Harry replied, shaking her hand firmly. "Justice is worth pursuing through unconventional channels when conventional ones fail." A slight smile cracked her severe expression. "Indeed. Though I'd prefer future evidence of criminal activity come through official channels." "Of course," Harry agreed, not actually promising anything. Sirius clapped his hands. "Enough formalities. Harry, we have more than my freedom to celebrate. The Wizengamot didn't just exonerate me, they granted full restitution for wrongful imprisonment. 12 years' worth of my Auror's salary, plus damages." "That's wonderful," Harry said. "And," Sirius continued, eyes gleaming with mischief, "they restored all my rights and privileges, including my family's seat on the Wizengamot." The political implications hit Harry immediately. The Black family held one of the most ancient and respected seats in wizarding government. With Sirius now legally recognized as Lord Black, they had gained a direct voice in the highest levels of power. "There's more," Andromeda Tonks added, stepping forward. The elegant witch bore a striking resemblance to her sister Bellatrix, though her features were warmer, her eyes kinder. "Sirius has officially reinstated me to the Black family. And named her daughter Nymphadora as his heir," Sirius added. At least until I have children of my own, which isn't happening anytime soon, so don't look so alarmed. I'm not alarmed, Harry protested. Just calculating the implications. Always the businessman, Cygnus Greengrass chuckled. Speaking of which, with Lord Black's return, our planned alliance between Potter, Black, and Greengrass interests becomes much more significant. The conversation shifted to political strategy. With the Black seat restored and allied with the traditionally neutral Greengrass faction, they could potentially build a powerful moderate bloc in the Wizengamot, one beholden neither to Dumbledore's progressives nor to the pureblood conservatives led by Malfoy. Later, as the gathering dispersed, Harry pulled Sirius aside. We need to talk about the gala. Ripjaw brought concerning intelligence. In the privacy of Harry's office, he briefed Sirius on the Goblin's report. Sirius's jubilant expression sobered immediately. Founders' artifacts moving isn't coincidence, he agreed. James and I heard rumors during the war. Voldemort had an obsession with items connected to the Hogwarts founders. Collected them. Why? Harry pressed. Sirius shook his head. No idea. But if Death Eaters are gathering them now, they could be preparing for his return, Harry finished. Which makes the Ministry Gala a potential target, high-profile, international attendees, perfect for a statement. Or they could be after you specifically, Sirius pointed out. Your booth will showcase magical innovation that threatens their pureblood narrative. Not to mention you're the boy who lived. Either way, we need enhanced security, Harry decided. Beyond what the Ministry or Gringotts is providing. I have contacts from my Auror days, Sirius offered. Discreet, competent, not necessarily bound by Ministry regulations. Hire them, Harry authorized. And let's accelerate the Tier 1 defense products we've been developing with Ripjaw's team. The following week passed in a blur of preparation. Phoenix's entire organization mobilized for the gala, perfecting product demonstrations, training presenters, coordinating logistics. Meanwhile, Harry split his time between public preparations and private security measures. 3 days before the event, Harry was reviewing security plans with Sirius when Daphne burst into his office, face flushed with excitement. The Evening Prophet, she announced, slapping a newspaper on his desk. Front page. Harry picked up the paper, and his eyebrows rose. The headline read, Black Fortune Returns, Economic Earthquake Looms for Magical Britain. Below was a detailed analysis of how Sirius's reinstatement could reshape Wizarding Britain's economic landscape, especially given his known alliance with boy business prodigy Harry Potter. This is, surprisingly positive, Harry noted, scanning the article. Usually the Prophet is more controlled by Malfoy interests. Daphne suggested. That's the best part. She flipped to page 3, pointing to a smaller headline, Prophet ownership changes hands. Harry's jaw dropped. You didn't. Not me, Daphne said with a grin. Your godfather. He apparently owned 12% of the Prophet through Black family investments. When the Wizengamot restored his assets, he immediately bought another 15% through shell companies Ripjaw set up. Controlling interest, Harry realized. Precisely, Sirius confirmed, strolling in with 2 butterbeers. He tossed one to Harry. 27% ownership in a publication where the remaining shares are fragmented among dozens of minor investors. We're now the largest single shareholder by a significant margin. Harry unstopped his butterbeer, shaking his head in amazement. The propaganda machine just changed hands. I wouldn't call it propaganda, Daphne objected. We're simply ensuring more balanced coverage. Starting with an economic piece that positions Phoenix and the Black Potter Alliance as the future of magical Britain, Harry noted dryly. Exactly, Daphne said without a hint of shame. Balanced. The night of the Ministry Summer Gala arrived with perfect weather and heightened security. The Ministry atrium had been transformed into a glittering ballroom, with international flags representing the 23 magical nations in attendance. Phoenix Enterprises occupied the most prominent exhibition space, a circular platform where their joint projects with Gringotts gleamed under enchanted lighting. Harry adjusted his formal robes, custom-made in a style that blended traditional wizarding elements with a more modern cut. At 13, he still looked young, but the confident set of his shoulders and the intensity in his green eyes made most people forget his age within minutes of conversation. "Remember," Daphne murmured, appearing beside him in elegant ice-blue robes that complemented her eyes, "the French delegation arrives at 8. The Japanese at 8:30. Both have expressed specific interest in our translation quills." "Got it," Harry nodded. "And the American ambassador wants to discuss the self-updating textbooks." "Correct," she confirmed. "Sirius will handle the Eastern European representatives, they respond better to old family names." Harry surveyed the room, noting Sirius in formal black family robes, already charming a group of dignified witches and wizards. Hermione demonstrated their newest remembrall to the Spanish magical attaché, her perfect command of magical theory evident even from a distance. The Greengrass family worked another section of the room, with Daphne's younger sister Astoria helping with product demonstrations. Everything was proceeding perfectly, which naturally put Harry on edge. In his experience, perfect usually preceded catastrophic. "You're scanning for threats again," Daphne observed quietly. "Try to look like you're enjoying your triumph, not expecting an attack." "Why not both?" Harry replied with a forced smile. "Our security team." "In position," she assured him. "Concealed but ready. Ripyaw's people are monitoring the perimeter wards." Harry nodded, trying to relax. The night progressed smoothly through the initial reception. Phoenix's exhibition drew continuous crowds, with international representatives expressing particular interest in their Goblin-Wizard collaborative items, unprecedented in magical manufacturing. At 9 o'clock, Minister Fudge called for attention, beginning the formal program with a self-congratulatory speech about international magical cooperation and Britain's leadership in magical innovation. Harry noticed Dumbledore watching from a corner, his expression unreadable as Fudge specifically praised Phoenix Enterprises as the future of magical business. "And now," Fudge concluded pompously, "I invite young Mr. Potter to introduce Phoenix Enterprises' newest innovation, a collaboration that bridges ancient rivalries for the betterment of all magical kind." Polite applause filled the atrium as Harry took the stage. The moment felt significant, his first major public address as the face of Phoenix. He prepared carefully, working with Daphne on striking the right balance between confidence and humility. "Thank you, Minister," Harry began, his voice magically amplified. "Distinguished guests, fellow magical innovators, tonight marks not just the unveiling of new products, but a new approach to magic itself." He paused, making eye contact with various sections of the audience before continuing. "For centuries, magical innovation has been hampered by artificial divisions, between magical species, between traditional disciplines, between old and new. Phoenix Enterprises rejects these limitations. We believe magic transcends boundaries. By combining goblin metallurgy with wizarding enchantment, we've created something truly revolutionary." Harry gestured, and a velvet cloth lifted from a display pedestal, revealing what appeared to be an ordinary silver pocket watch. "This timepiece represents our philosophy," Harry continued. "Traditionally, magical watches merely tell time, perhaps with additional hands for family members or appointments. This watch actively adapts to your needs and priorities." He demonstrated, allowing the audience to see how the watch face shifted, displaying different information based on verbal commands or the wearer's priorities. The crowd murmured appreciatively. "But that's just the beginning," Harry said. "The real innovation lies in, the explosion ripped through the far wall of the atrium with devastating force." Screams erupted as debris showered the crowd. Through the smoke and dust, dark-robed figures poured in, faces concealed behind silver masks. "Death Eaters." Harry's wand was in his hand instantly. "Shields up," he bellowed, and the Phoenix team responded immediately. Sirius, Daphne, Hermione, and the greengrasses cast powerful shield charms, creating protective bubbles around nearby civilians. The Ministry security forces reacted with embarrassing slowness, clearly unprepared for an attack of this magnitude. Aurors scrambled to organize a defense as the Death Eaters advanced, firing curses indiscriminately into the panicking crowd. Harry assessed the situation with cold clarity. The attack had breached the southwest corner, furthest from the main exits, creating maximum chaos. At least 15 attackers, moving with practiced coordination. This wasn't random, it was a planned operation. Sirius. Harry called. Evacuation protocol. Daphne, command center. They'd prepared for this possibility. Sirius immediately began organizing evacuation of civilians through their emergency port keys, while Daphne activated a communications network linking all Phoenix security personnel. Harry turned to face the attackers, rage building as he saw injured civilians. These Death Eaters had targeted an international gathering, apparently unconcerned about casualties. Potter. One of the masked figures called out, his voice magically distorted. Your interference ends tonight. A jet of sickly purple light shot toward Harry, who deflected it with a casual flick of his wand. His magical training over the past year had focused heavily on combat, a decision that now proved prescient. You picked the wrong event to crash, Harry replied, then went on the offensive. What followed stunned even those who thought they understood the boy who lived's capabilities. Harry moved with fluid grace, combining standard defensive spells with unconventional tactics. He transfigured debris into projectiles, animated statues to intercept curses, and used the environment itself as both weapon and shield. 2 Death Eaters went down in the first minute, not from direct spells, but from a section of marble flooring Harry had transfigured into quicksand. A third found himself suddenly entangled in his own robes, which had come alive and bound him tightly. Meanwhile, Sirius fought with the skill of his aura training, methodically disabling attackers while covering the evacuation. Daphne coordinated their defense from behind a pillar, relaying information through communication devices Phoenix had developed for exactly this scenario. The Death Eaters, clearly expecting an easier target, found themselves outmatched by the combined forces of Phoenix's security team and the Aurors who had finally organized an effective response. After losing nearly half their numbers to capture or injury, the attackers began to retreat. As they fell back, their leader turned toward Harry once more. This isn't over, Potter. The Dark Lord returns, and you will fall. Heard that before, Harry replied coldly. He died screaming last time too. The taunt had its intended effect. The Death Eater leader roared with rage and launched a barrage of increasingly deadly curses. Harry deflected them systematically, waiting for the opening he knew would come when magical exhaustion set in. It happened after the 8th consecutive curse, a barely perceptible hesitation. Harry struck instantly, not with a standard combat spell, but with a precisely targeted finite incantatem that disrupted the Death Eater's mask enchantment. The silver mask dissolved, revealing a face Harry recognized from Ministry publications, Walden McNair. Smile for the cameras, McNair, Harry said quietly, gesturing to where prophet photographers were already capturing the scene. Hard to deny this tomorrow. McNair's eyes widened in horror as he realized his exposure. With a final curse that went wide, he activated an emergency port key and vanished, along with the remaining attackers. The aftermath was chaos of a different sort. Ministry officials rushed to downplay the attack, while international representatives demanded explanations for the security breach. Healers treated the injured, and Aurors secured the scene. Harry found Daphne organizing Phoenix staff, ensuring everyone was accounted for. When she saw him, her composed facade cracked momentarily. She rushed forward, throwing her arms around him. You're okay, she breathed, then immediately stepped back, cheeks flushing. I mean, the team is okay. 3 minor injuries, no fatalities among our people. Overall casualties? Harry asked, pushing aside the warmth from her brief embrace. 17 injured, 2 critical, no confirmed deaths, she reported. It could have been much worse if we hadn't prepared. Sirius joined them, looking grimmer than Harry had ever seen him. McNair wasn't acting alone. That operation had Ministry insider help, someone disabled specific security wards. Not surprising, Harry replied. Ripjaw warned us about Ministry infiltration. This changes the timeline, Sirius said quietly. If they're bold enough to attack the Ministry itself. Harry nodded, understanding the implication. Voldemort's return might be more imminent than they'd feared. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Amelia Bones, who looked both furious and impressed. Mr. Potter, she said crisply, your security team responded with remarkable efficiency. Almost as if you were expecting trouble. We prepare for contingencies, Madam Bones, Harry replied carefully. Standard business practice. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Indeed. I'd be interested to know how your contingency planning anticipated a breach that my top Aurors considered impossible. Before Harry could formulate a suitably vague answer, another voice joined the conversation. Perhaps, Amelia, it relates to the same intelligence I've been gathering about Tom's potential return. Albus Dumbledore approached, his usual twinkling demeanor replaced by grave concern. You knew this was coming? Bones demanded. Not specifically, Dumbledore admitted. But there have been signs. His gaze shifted to Harry. Signs I believe Mr. Potter has also noticed. Harry met the headmaster's eyes steadily. Phoenix Enterprises takes security seriously, given my personal history. An admirable precaution, Dumbledore acknowledged. Though perhaps in the future, sharing such intelligence with proper authorities might prevent injuries entirely. The subtle criticism wasn't lost on Harry. When we have actionable intelligence, we share it, he replied evenly. When we have suspicions, we prepare. The tension between them was palpable. Over the past year, Harry's relationship with Dumbledore had evolved into something complex, part mentor-student, part wary allies, part philosophical opponents. They shared the goal of opposing Voldemort but disagreed fundamentally on methods and authority. Bones looked between them, clearly sensing the undercurrents. Regardless of prior knowledge, your team's response saved lives tonight, Mr. Potter. The Ministry acknowledges this contribution. After she departed to oversee the investigation, Dumbledore lingered. Perhaps we might speak privately, Harry. Recent events suggest our separate efforts might benefit from greater coordination. Harry considered refusing, but pragmatism won out. Tomorrow morning, Phoenix headquarters. 10 o'clock. Dumbledore nodded. Until then. The remainder of the night blurred into statements for Aurors, reassurances to international partners, and damage control for the interrupted product launch. By the time Harry returned to Grimmauld Place, now serving as both secure residence and secondary headquarters, exhaustion had set in. He found Daphne in the library, still in her formal robes, reviewing security footage of the attack. You should get some rest, Harry said, dropping into an armchair across from her. She looked up, dark circles under her eyes. Just trying to identify patterns. The attack was too well coordinated to be spontaneous. We'll analyze everything tomorrow, Harry promised. Right now, we both need sleep. Daphne sighed, setting aside the footage. I was scared, she admitted quietly. When they started firing curses and I couldn't see you. I know, Harry replied simply. Me too. The vulnerability in her expression made his chest tighten. Without overthinking, he reached across and took her hand. We got through it. Together. Her fingers intertwined with his. Together, she agreed softly. The moment stretched, comfortable in its simplicity. They were still too young, too focused on building their empire to fully explore what was developing between them. But nights like this, when danger reinforced what mattered, the foundation of something deeper became clearer. Morning arrived too quickly. Harry reviewed the night's events with Sirius over breakfast, preparing for Dumbledore's arrival. He'll want greater involvement in our operations, Sirius predicted, pouring coffee. Access to Ripya's intelligence, input on our security measures, possibly even oversight of certain projects. Not happening, Harry said firmly. Coordination is one thing. Surrender of autonomy is another. Just remember, Sirius cautioned, Dumbledore plays the long game better than anyone. He's been maneuvering wizarding politics since before your parents were born. So have the goblins, Harry countered. And they're firmly on our side. Dumbledore arrived precisely at 10, dressed in surprisingly subdued robes of deep purple. After pleasantries, they settled in Harry's office at Phoenix headquarters, which had been swept for monitoring charms that morning. I must commend your preparedness last night, Dumbledore began. Few adult wizards would have responded so effectively. Thank you, Harry replied. Though I wish it hadn't been necessary. Indeed. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. The attack confirms what I've feared, Voldemort's supporters are growing bolder in preparation for his return. We've tracked increased activity for months, Harry acknowledged, deciding transparency about already demonstrated capabilities might build trust. Founders' artifacts moving, Death Eater meetings, suspicious financial transfers. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose slightly. Your intelligence gathering is more comprehensive than I realized. Phoenix protects its interests, Harry said simply. And I'm apparently at the top of Voldemort's target list if he returns. When he returns, Dumbledore corrected gently. And yes, you remain his primary target, both for what happened when you were an infant and for what you've become since. What I've become? Harry asked. A symbol of innovation. Of cooperation between magical beings. Of merit over blood status. Dumbledore gestured to the Phoenix Enterprises logo on the wall. Everything you've built challenges the pure-blood ideology Voldemort champions. Your business success undermines his narrative as surely as your continued survival. Harry hadn't considered that angle. He'd built Phoenix because he saw opportunity and needed independence, not as ideological opposition to Voldemort. But Dumbledore was right, their success inherently challenged pure-blood supremacy. So what are you proposing? Harry asked directly. An alliance, Dumbledore replied. Not subordination of your operations to mine, as I suspect you fear. Rather, a mutual sharing of intelligence and coordination of efforts. What efforts specifically? I have been researching Voldemort's methods of survival, Dumbledore said carefully. His connection to Founders' artifacts is not coincidental. I believe he has used them for a dark purpose, one that explains his ability to endure beyond normal death. Harry leaned forward. You know how he survived. Dumbledore nodded gravely. I have theories, increasingly well-supported ones. The moving artifacts your intelligence detected may be key to his planned resurrection. Then we should destroy them, Harry said immediately. It's not that simple, Dumbledore cautioned. These objects are protected by powerful dark magic. Destroying them requires specific methods I've been researching. And you want our help locating them, Harry concluded. Precisely. Dumbledore's blue eyes fixed on Harry intently. Your intelligence network has already proven more effective than mine in certain areas. Combined with my research. The implication was clear, together they might prevent Voldemort's return entirely. What does this alliance look like practically? Harry asked. Regular intelligence sharing. Coordination on specific operations when our interests align. Pooling of certain resources. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. I would not ask for control of your operations, Harry. Merely cooperation toward our shared goal. Harry considered the proposal carefully. Working with Dumbledore carried risks. The headmaster was known for keeping secrets and sometimes sacrificing individuals for what he perceived as the greater good. But refusing cooperation against Voldemort would be irresponsible. Conditional agreement, Harry finally said. We share intelligence specific to Voldemort and Death Eater activities. Operational coordination is case by case, with both sides maintaining veto power. And all shared information remains confidential, no bringing the Ministry into joint operations without mutual consent. Dumbledore smiled slightly. You negotiate like a goblin, Harry. I'll take that as a compliment, Harry replied. They shook hands, sealing an alliance that both knew remained tentative, built on necessity rather than full trust. After Dumbledore departed, Sirius emerged from the adjoining room where he'd observed the meeting. Well played, he commented. You got his information without surrendering autonomy. For now, Harry cautioned. Dumbledore's still holding back. He knows more about these artifacts than he's saying. Of course he does, Sirius agreed. But now we have a channel to learn more. The aftermath of the Ministry attack transformed the wizarding political landscape overnight. The Daily Prophet, now under Phoenix-friendly editorial direction, published front-page photos of McNair's unmasked face, accompanied by detailed investigations into Death Eater infiltration of the Ministry. Public outrage forced Minister Fudge to establish a special task force under Amelia Bones to root out corrupt officials. Meanwhile, Phoenix Enterprises capitalized on their security team's performance during the attack. Their reputation for innovation was now matched by a reputation for protection. Demand for their defensive products, from simple shield-enhanced cloaks to advanced detection devices, skyrocketed. 2 weeks after the gala, Harry stood in their newest acquisition, a massive warehouse outside Birmingham that would become Phoenix's primary manufacturing facility. From a tiny shop in Knockturn Alley to this, Sirius marveled, gazing at the cavernous space. In just over a year. We're just getting started, Harry replied, unrolling architectural plans on a conjured table. This facility will triple our production capacity. Daphne joined them, reviewing the plans with a critical eye. The Goblin Forges will occupy the east wing, she noted. Separate ventilation system, reinforced floors for the heavier equipment. And direct underground access to a Gringotts transit point, Harry added. No product movement visible from outside. The partnership with Gringotts had deepened significantly following the attack. The Goblins, impressed by Phoenix's security response and intelligence gathering, had proposed expanded collaboration. Beyond product development, they now offered banking services specifically tailored to Phoenix's growing international operations, services normally reserved for the oldest pureblood families. More significantly, Nagnok had approached Harry with an unprecedented proposition: partial integration of Goblin warriors into Phoenix's security forces. Such cross-species security cooperation had never been formally established in magical Britain. The international expansion is proceeding faster than projected, Daphne reported, consulting her notes. The American contract is signed. Negotiations with the Japanese are in final stages. And the surprise interest from the Brazilian ministry doubled our export forecasts. We need to accelerate the translation department, Harry decided. Magical language barriers remain our biggest challenge for international growth. As they continued discussing expansion plans, Hermione arrived with research updates from the experimental division, now housed in a converted manor house in Scotland. Her summer position had evolved into a permanent role, with special arrangements allowing her to balance Hogwarts studies with Phoenix research. We've had a breakthrough with the communication mirrors, she announced excitedly. By modifying the original enchantment architecture, we've created a network capability, connecting multiple mirrors simultaneously rather than just pairs. Like a magical conference call, Harry translated, immediately grasping the commercial implications. That's massive, Hermione. There's more, she continued. The same principle could potentially work for other communication methods, including the FLU network. Imagine multi-person FLU calls without sticking your head in a fireplace. The ministry regulates FLU technologies, Sirius pointed out. For now, Daphne replied with a calculating smile. But regulations can be influenced. Harry laughed. You've been spending too much time with the political team. With Sirius now occupying the Black family Wisengamot seat, Phoenix had established a dedicated political division, officially focused on regulatory compliance, but actually designed to shape magical legislation favorable to their interests. Combined with their controlling stake in the Daily Prophet, they could now influence both public opinion and governmental policy. Speaking of politics, Sirius interjected, Lucius Malfoy is making moves again. After lying low following the gala attack, he's reappeared with a major donation to St. Mungo's and a publicity campaign portraying himself as a reformer concerned about ministry security failures. Classic misdirection, Harry observed. Was he involved in the attack? No direct evidence, Sirius admitted. But Ripio's team traced some of those financial transfers to shell companies that eventually funded the operation. Nothing that would stand up in the Wizengamot, but enough for us to know he's still Voldemort's man, Harry finished. Keep watching him. If Dumbledore's right about Voldemort's return plans accelerating, Lucius will be involved somehow. The rest of the summer passed in a blur of expansion and innovation. Phoenix Enterprises continued its explosive growth, with new products launching monthly and international partnerships multiplying. Their workforce expanded to over 300, a mixture of wizards, goblins, and even a few progressive werewolves in roles that accommodated their monthly condition. Harry's apprenticeship with Dumbledore evolved as well. Their sessions now focused less on standard magical theory and more on specialized knowledge, particularly regarding Voldemort's history and methods. Harry learned about Tom Riddle's obsession with Hogwarts, his discovery of his Slytherin heritage, and his transformation into Lord Voldemort. Most importantly, Dumbledore finally revealed his theory about the Founder's artifacts, that Voldemort had turned them into Horcruxes, receptacles containing fragments of his soul that anchored him to life even after his body was destroyed. Horcruxes, Harry repeated, testing the awful word. And you believe he made multiple ones? At least 5, possibly more, Dumbledore confirmed gravely. An unprecedented fragmentation of the soul that explains both his monstrous nature and his continued existence. How are they destroyed? Harry asked practically. Very few substances can destroy a Horcrux beyond magical repair, Dumbledore explained. Basilisk venom is one. Fiend fire another, though exceedingly dangerous to control. Harry processed this information, already calculating how Phoenix might contribute to the hunt. Their intelligence network, combined with goblin tracking magic, could potentially locate the remaining Horcruxes more efficiently than Dumbledore's methods. We'll need a specialized team, Harry decided. Combine Ripio's trackers with Cursebreakers and magical historians. Focus exclusively on locating these objects. A wise approach, Dumbledore agreed. Though absolute secrecy is essential. Knowledge of Horcruxes is dangerous in itself. Only the core team will know the full purpose, Harry assured him. Everyone else will operate on a need-to-know basis. As autumn approached, Harry faced a decision about his ongoing education. The apprenticeship with Dumbledore had proven valuable but limited in scope. Phoenix's explosive growth demanded more of his time, yet his magical development remained essential, especially with Voldemort's threat looming. After lengthy discussions with Sirius, Daphne, and his tutors, Harry developed a hybrid solution. He would attend Hogwarts for specific advanced classes, Transfiguration with McGonagall, Charms with Flitwick, and Defense against the Dark Arts, while maintaining his independent studies and business responsibilities. Technically enrolling as a special status student gave him access to Hogwarts resources without full-time attendance requirements. The arrangement raised eyebrows but was ultimately approved by the Board of Governors, thanks in part to Sirius's growing political influence and a timely donation to the school's scholarship fund. Harry's partial attendance at Hogwarts created new opportunities for Phoenix. With direct access to students from all houses, he built relationships that transcended traditional rivalries. Slytherins appreciated his business acumen, Ravenclaws his innovative approach to magic, Hufflepuffs his loyalty to his team, and Gryffindors his courage in standing against Death Eaters. Even Draco Malfoy, after their initial hostile encounters, developed a grudging respect for Harry's achievements, though he'd never admit it publicly. The pure-blood heir found himself caught between his father's ideology and the undeniable evidence that Harry's merit-based approach produced superior results. The most significant Hogwarts connection, however, came unexpectedly through Neville Longbottom, a quiet Gryffindor whose grandmother served on the Wizengamot. Through Neville, Harry learned that their families had been closely allied during the First War against Voldemort. More importantly, Neville had nearly shared Harry's fate. Voldemort had chosen between them when targeting the child mentioned in a prophecy. A prophecy? Harry asked sharply when Neville mentioned this casually during a herbology project. What exactly did it say? Neville looked surprised. I don't know the details. Gran never told me the actual wording. Just that both our families went into hiding because of it, and Voldemort eventually chose to target yours first. Harry filed this information away, intending to question Dumbledore about it at their next meeting. A prophecy explaining Voldemort's obsession with killing him as a baby would fill a significant gap in his understanding. Meanwhile, Phoenix's Horcrux team, operating under the cover name Historical Acquisitions Division, began methodically tracking the Founder's artifacts. By combining goblin magic with wizarding research, they identified potential locations for Hufflepuff's cup and Slytherin's locket. The suspected Ravenclaw diadem proved more elusive, its magical signature faint and unstable. In late October, their efforts bore fruit. The team pinpointed Hufflepuff's cup to the Lestrange vault at Gringotts, an almost impossible target, except for their unique goblin partnership. After delicate negotiations with the Gringotts Leadership Council, a compromise was reached. The goblins themselves would retrieve the Horcrux using an ancient treaty provision allowing them to remove dark objects that threatened goblin security. The extraction occurred under absolute secrecy, with the cup transferred directly to a containment chamber Phoenix had constructed according to Dumbledore's specifications. Harry, Dumbledore, and a goblin elder named Gornik gathered to witness its destruction. I must admit, Harry, Dumbledore said as they prepared, your approach has yielded results far faster than my solitary efforts. Collaboration has advantages, Harry replied simply. The cup radiated malevolence even through its containment field, a sickly magical aura that felt instinctively wrong. When Gornik produced a ceremonial goblin dagger coated in basilisk venom, the Horcrux seemed to sense its peril. The cup vibrated violently, emitting a high-pitched whine that made their teeth ache. Proceed quickly, Dumbledore advised, his wand ready to contain any magical backlash. Gornik approached the containment field, speaking ritualistic gobbledygook that temporarily opened a small portal. With precise movements, he thrust the venom-coated dagger into the cup. The Horcrux's death was spectacular and horrifying. A shadow form erupted from the cup, a twisted, screaming approximation of a human face, before dissolving into acrid black smoke. The magical backlash shattered the containment field, though Dumbledore's shield protected them from harm. When the chaos subsided, the cup remained, physically intact but magically inert. The Horcrux was destroyed. One down, Harry said grimly. 4 or more to go, Dumbledore reminded him. The successful destruction of the Horcrux accelerated their hunt for the others. Within weeks, the Historical Acquisitions Division traced Slytherin's locket to, of all places, Grimmauld Place, where it had been hidden years earlier by Sirius's brother Regulus, who had apparently turned against Voldemort before his death. This Horcrux, too, was destroyed using the Goblin Basilisk dagger, though not before it subjected them to a psychological assault, projecting each person's worst fears and failures in vivid detail. Harry glimpsed Daphne lying dead, Phoenix headquarters in flames, and Sirius returned to Azkaban before Dumbledore contained the manifestation. By mid-November, their intelligence suggested movement on another front. Ripya's network detected Peter Pettigrew, still in rat form, in Albania, where rumors had long placed Voldemort's wraith. More disturbing, magical sensors placed throughout Britain registered an uptick in dark magical signatures matching the unique pattern associated with Voldemort's magic. He's attempting return, Dumbledore concluded during an emergency meeting at Phoenix headquarters. The remaining Horcruxes sustain him, while Pettigrew likely assists with whatever ritual he's planning. Timeline? Harry asked tersely. Months, not years, Dumbledore estimated. Perhaps as early as summer. Then we accelerate everything, Harry decided. Double the Horcrux team. Expand our security division. Fast-track the defensive products in development. Sirius nodded grimly. I'll leverage the Wizengamot seat to push through emergency powers for Amelia's department, bypassing Fudge if necessary. And our international contingencies? Daphne asked. Activate them, Harry confirmed. If Britain falls to Voldemort, Phoenix needs operational continuity from secure locations abroad. Over the following weeks, Phoenix Enterprises underwent a subtle but significant transformation. While maintaining all normal business operations, the organization quietly shifted resources toward war footing. Manufacturing facilities increased production of defensive items. Research teams prioritized combat applications. Secure communication networks were established between all Phoenix locations. Most significantly, Harry accelerated a project that had been theoretical until now, a private security force combining wizards, goblins, and magical creatures, trained specifically to counter Death Eater tactics. Officially registered as a private security contractor with the Ministry, the Phoenix Guard represented something unprecedented in magical Britain, a fighting force not controlled by the government. Lucius Malfoy, predictably, led opposition in the Wizengamot, decrying the private army as a threat to Ministry authority. His efforts gained little traction, however, as Phoenix's response to the Gala attack had demonstrated the inadequacy of standard Ministry security. The year ended with Phoenix Enterprises in its strongest position yet. What had begun as a small repair shop now encompassed multiple divisions, international operations, and unprecedented interspecies cooperation. Harry's empire, built from nothing at age 12, had become a power capable of challenging even the rising threat of Voldemort. On New Year's Eve, Phoenix's core leadership gathered at Grimmauld Place for a rare moment of celebration amid their preparations. Harry, Sirius, Daphne, Hermione, Cygnus Greengrass, Nagnock, and Ripjaw shared a midnight toast in the renovated drawing room, a diverse group united by common purpose. To Phoenix, Sirius proposed, raising his glass. May we rise stronger from whatever fires await. To Harry, Daphne amended, her eyes meeting his across the room. Who showed us all that, abandoned and forgotten, is just the beginning of the story, not the end. Harry felt a surge of emotion as he looked at the family he'd built, so different from the lonely, cupboard-dwelling boy the Dursleys had abandoned. Whatever Voldemort planned, whatever challenges lay ahead, Harry no longer faced them alone. To all of us, he said firmly. The family we choose. The future we build. The world we'll reshape, together. As their glasses clinked, Harry's gaze met Daphne's once more. The connection between them had deepened steadily over the past year, evolving from business partnership to unwavering trust and something increasingly personal. Though still young, they both recognized what was developing, a bond that would eventually transcend business entirely. Later that night, as the others drifted to various parts of the house, Harry and Daphne found themselves alone in the library. Quite a year, Daphne observed, curled in an armchair before the fire. From a shop in Nocturne to all this. Hard to believe sometimes, Harry agreed. Though I always knew you'd be brilliant. She smiled, a light blush coloring her cheeks. We make a good team. Always have. We do, Harry agreed, gathering his courage. Which is why I wanted to ask you something. Daphne looked up, her expression curious. Yes. When this is all over, when Voldemort is defeated and things stabilize, would you consider? Harry hesitated, suddenly feeling every bit his 14 years despite running a magical empire. Would you consider exploring what we might be beyond business partners? Her smile widened, eyes softening in a way he rarely saw outside their private moments. I've been considering that for some time already, she admitted. And yes, I'd like that very much. The simplicity of the exchange belied its significance. Neither rushed forward, they had time, they had growth ahead, they had a war to win first. But the acknowledgement of possibility between them felt right, a foundation for something to build upon when the time was right. As midnight approached, they joined Sirius on the roof of Grimmauld Place to watch magical fireworks illuminate London's skyline. The winter air was crisp, the stars bright above the city lights. "Ready for what comes next?" Sirius asked quietly. Harry nodded, feeling Daphne's hand slip into his as they watched the celebration below. "Whatever Voldemort brings," Harry said with quiet determination, "he'll find I'm not the helpless baby he failed to kill 13 years ago. He'll face Phoenix Rising, and everything we've built." The final fireworks exploded overhead, golden phoenixes soaring across the night sky, a fitting symbol for the empire born from abandonment and the boy king who built it from nothing. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.